Okay, Tommy Sotomayor, welcome to VladTV.
Thank you, brother, for having me. Been wanting to come on here for a while.
Yo, you know, when I go through the comments on my YouTube channel, and sometimes I'll just throw a comment out and say, you know, who should we interview next? And your name just kept popping up over and over and over again. So clearly the viewers wanted to see you.
They want to see if you can come get the belts. That's what it is.
The belts, okay. You brought them with you, I see.
Yes, I did.
Now, what do they represent?
All right, it's supposed to represent the fact that with me, I'm like the logic champion. People can't come to me and argue, refute the points that I bring up. I try to bring up a lot of issues about fathers, about how women are, in America especially, how they're getting over on guys. So that's what these belts represent, the fact that I want people to come and take these from me by giving me an example of something I've said that's wrong.
Okay, so let's get started. Your real name is not Tommy Sotomayor.
Well, technically it is, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. Originally it was Thomas Jerome Harris?
Yes.
Okay, so why change it to Tommy Sotomayor?
I changed it to my father's name.
Okay.
That's another thing that I do. I talk about fathers, and I hated my father growing up, but I didn't know my father. I wanted to have nothing to do with my father. So anything that reminded me of my father made me hate like him, because my mother was like, you know, your dad's a bad guy. Then I realized, why do you hate a man that you never met?
Okay.
So that was it. I decided to take on my father's name.
Now, you've never met your father?
I've met him like twice.
2 times?
Yeah, and it wasn't good the last time.
Well, the first time you met him, how old were you?
About 10, I think.
10 years old?
That's when I can remember. I'm sure I met him before that, but I only have a memory of him at 2 times, 10 and 17.
So at 10 years old, you are, from all you know, meeting this man for the first time who is your father.
But I was excited.
Right.
Because it's your dad.
Right, you've seen pictures of him and everything?
Nope.
There was no pictures?
Nope.
You had no idea what your father looked like up until 10 years old?
Well, I can remember the idea of what he looked like. I don't remember being surprised to see him. I just remember that's the last time I saw him.
Okay, so at 10, you meet him for the first time. How does that go?
I went on a trip with him, his wife, and his other children. It didn't go so well. He was, I guess from what they tell me, my dad was a little like shell shocked from being in the military and stuff like that. And he wasn't a very good guy to that family. So I see this and I'm shocked because I'd never seen a father in the home. But then I see him being very domineering to them.
Well, there was no warm up before the vacation?
Nope.
There's no like, hey, let's maybe have some lunch first and then lead up to the vacation, straight from total stranger to vacation.
That was it. But I was excited. It didn't feel like it was something weird. It felt like I wanted to get to know this person. And then, of course, when I knew I had other siblings, I wanted to be a part of them.
Right.
So, but I walked away from it not feeling so good about the exchange. Okay,
and then 7 years passed?
Yeah. And 7 years passed, I wanted to meet him again because I thought I was older now. There's a different experience. And that didn't go well at all because I had a conversation with my mom. I was like, I'm going to stay with my dad. I'm going to finish my senior year. I'm going to stay with my dad and hang out with him. And while I was hanging out with him, that was when I found out my dad was an alcoholic. My dad was like in bad shape and I never saw him again after that.
Okay. Quite a story.
Man.
But you took on his last name?
Yes.
After 17?
No, I didn't do it. He died when I was 28.
Okay.
And they had asked me because apparently he had colon cancer, and he wanted me to come see him, and I said no. After my incident at 17, because it was really, really bad. Like he was drunk one night, and I came home, and he said, you know, and this is a true conversation. He said, you know, I gotta have a conversation with you. So I sat down, and he was in his underwear, and he was sweating real bad. He just had on tighty whities. He was sitting on the couch. He said, sit down, son. He said, you know, I've been having a problem the last couple of weeks you've been here. I said, what's that, Dad? He said, and I don't know what kind of language I can use. He said, but
Go ahead.
He said, with you being in the house, it's hard for me to get pussy, so you got to go home to your mom. Those were the last words he said to me.
Then he kicked you out?
Yep. After only having me for 2 weeks out of 17 years of my whole life.
Okay, so then you took on his last name.
Now this happened at 33 when I started doing my radio, because I wanted to talk about the importance of fathers. And I noticed that a lot of things that I was doing, a lot of mistakes I was making, is because I didn't have any kind of male influence at all. I grew up in a house full of women. I grew up having an over amount of respect for women, thinking that women were the greatest thing in the world, and that every mistake in a woman's life or in a child's life was the father's problem. But then I found out as I grew up, well, my mom knew my dad was married and still had children by it. So just to mess with his wife, just to try and take him from his wife. So I kept thinking, why are women able to do things like this, but they're never looked at as bad? Why do I get to live in a house with siblings by several other men, but every one of our fathers are bad? Like, what does that say about the women? If they pick, every man they pick is a bad guy, and they keep having kids, but they're bad. I mean, the guys are bad, but the women are saints. And so I said, well, I don't know my dad, and I don't know what struggles he had. I don't know what brought him to where he was. But apparently I'm like my dad, because I'm just as confused about women, don't know how to keep them, don't know how to make them happy. And when you're with them, you're not happy with them. Don't know how to be a man because, well, where did I see one? So I wanted to start somewhere.
Well, you've had some pretty controversial views about women.
Yeah.
Black women in general, in particular, actually. So I'm going to bring up some of your quotes. I think these black men are the worst stewards of children. I don't think that there's any race of men who have it as worse as black men do.
I believe that.
Okay.
I can prove that to you. If you look at the worst cities in the United States right now, the most violent cities, the highest crime, there's one through line: single black mothers. Every time you have single black mothers, you have crime, you have violence. Did you know that 80% of the black males in jail right now come from single parent homes? If black men were such great people, why are they producing such violence in their communities? Now, you'll see black women get together and try to ban me from the internet, try to ban some guy who doesn't put enough dark-skinned girls in his videos. But you don't see them walking around trying to ban all of the violence in Chicago. You don't see them getting together and marching against this violence in all of these inner cities. So why are they okay with this violence? Tyshawn Lee's mom. Tyshawn Lee was the 9-year-old who got shot 7 times, center mass, in the chest in Chicago. His mom went out and started a GoFundMe, got $30,000 from that GoFundMe, took the $30,000, bought a car, went to visit Las Vegas, hung out, partied, but didn't do what she said she was doing, which was burying him. He was murdered. They never did anything to try and find who the killer was. But then 3 months later, she's on Instagram talking about, I'm tired of these cops killing our black men. Hold on a minute. There was not one cop that killed your son. Yet you're on giving a public service announcement saying that cops are killing black men, when in your city of Chicago, 8 out of 10 murders go unsolved, and no one cares.
Okay, so let's talk about the different points. So you're saying that single black women are producing violent men?
Yes.
Okay. What about single women of other races?
Well, single women of other races may be doing it, but they're not doing it at such a larger rate because they're not going around saying, I'm single and being single is good and I can raise my kids by myself.
So when you look at like the Spanish community,
Mm-hmm.
and you look at all the single moms in that community, so I don't think there's going to be a huge difference and you go into poor communities at that.
Yes.
So in poor communities, you're just going to have more crime, period.
Yes.
Single, married, gay, straight, it's probably going to just be more crime when you're talking about a poor community where there's less to go around.
So why are there so many in ours then? You'd be correct if you're saying, because I think I have a movie coming out called The Fatherless America.
Okay.
And it shows that, fatherless white kids have problems.
Right.
Yet there are fewer of them because they understand it's a problem.
Fatherless, poor white kids have less problems than fatherless, poor black kids. I'm thinking the numbers are probably pretty similar.
No. I said there are fewer of them, meaning that there are fewer fatherlessness. Not that they have fewer problems. I'm saying, no, the problems are the same.
Right.
But you have less.
Less
You
what?
have less number of them. Like, it's not rampant. In the black community, single parenting is rampant. It's a ridiculous number. It's higher than any other community by far, especially the white community. So all I'm saying is they're more percentage-wise. So one group apparently is understanding it's a problem, so they try to keep the problem down. The other group is saying it's no problem at all. I grew up being told that it's not a problem that you don't have a father. Every kid didn't have a father. I watched white kids without father, and they were envious of kids with fathers. They felt bad. So it's a different dynamic.
So you're saying in the black community, the mothers are making it okay to do single parenting. That's becoming the norm. This is kind of what you're saying?
Every rapper has a Dear Mama song. Every rapper has a I hate my dad or my dad wasn't there song. How often do you find this through line in any other community to where the majority of the people are saying it's okay? It's okay to the point of where your president of the United States, Barack Obama, came out and stated that black women are the backbone of the black community. Never has this been said about any other community that their women are. Then he turned around and said on Father's Day, black men need to take care of their kids.
Okay.
These things are pointing towards the women are great, the men suck.
I think in any relationship that involves children, no one goes into it planning to have a single parent situation. I don't think this is the goal. This is one of the options that occur. But I think if you are looking to have a baby, whether you're the man or the woman, and you're planning on having the baby, then you're planning on having a baby with this particular person more often than not.
But most black children aren't had even by plan. They're not planning. It's we were having sex, we just met, somebody had a kid.
Well, so maybe what you could say is, in the black community, abortion is not as popular.
Did you know in New York, last year, there were more black babies aborted than born?
Okay.
You know, they also put Planned Parenthood, these clinics where they perform these things, where do they normally put them? In black communities. Do you also know that in the census 15 years ago, blacks were 12.5% of the population in the United States?
Okay.
The last census they did, guess what the population of blacks were?
No idea.
12.5.
The same.
So we're not moving.
Okay.
We're having them and we're aborting them. Here's the difference. We're aborting a lot of kids that probably should have been born and having kids that shouldn't have been. There's a story about a guy, three guys in Tennessee, three dudes,
Okay.
who got 46 women pregnant and
Okay.
had 76 kids. So why would 46 women sleep with three dudes? And they knew the dude had the kids. How about the guy who just passed away in Atlanta, Shawty Lowe?
Shorty Low, yeah.
All of those women decided to continue to do this with one man. Do you see this through line in
He
any
had
other
what,
community?
11 baby
Yeah.
mothers?
Sean Kemp, my man Dwight Howard. You can keep going, T.I. Even look at what Dwayne Wade was able to keep a girl while getting another girl pregnant. This is something you see in our community specifically. How many white football players do you know who have a bunch of kids out there just floating around? It's rare.
I'm looking at the men who have had the most children in history. I don't actually recognize any of them, but there's one guy named Ismail Ibn Sharif, who, according to Google here, has had 888 children.
No.
There's Bertold Weisner, who's had 600.
What era were these dudes doing
I'm
this?
not quite sure.
Yeah, this had to
I'm
be
not
old
quite
school.
Sure. Yeah, this might
That's
have been
old school.
Genghis Khan is on this list somewhere.
Yeah, so that's old school. That's back when you wanted to create a larger brood, so to speak.
Okay, so I'm looking through this. I mean, it's an interesting question. So let's discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
There is a guy in Zimbabwe who has 15 wives and 128 children. He's got 15 wives though. These are all his actual wives. He's probably a fairly fairly wealthy man, you know, because this is probably a Muslim society, and when you have a wife, all your wives have to be equal in terms of the way they're treated. Mm-hmm. So if you have a house for one, all of them have to have houses and so forth. Exactly. So they all have to live in the same house. You can't throw the old wife in the shack in the back. There's a guy named Jack Kigongo.
See, these are all people in different countries. We have to talk about America.
Right, this is not America. Right, yeah, these are people in different countries. Yeah, none of these seem like they're American.
And like you said, their culture is different. They don't have a culture of where this one guy has kids by a bunch of people and he just ignores them.
I mean, if you go to the trailer parks, I think you're going to see white people doing about the same thing who are in a similar financial situation. You're going to have white trash having 30 kids by 40 different dudes, and no one knows whose kid it is, and you have and you have a welfare situation that's sort of
promoting it
because you have a situation where a woman gets more money when a man is not in the house. So if you just take a step back and you say, how am I going to make some extra money? I'm going to have extra money with you not being here, which I would think would be reversed. Like, why not give a couple more money if they are together, because you're now creating a two-parent household?
Because you understand in America that if you take the father out of the home, you destroy the community.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And they want to destroy the black community easier. See, the other communities are byproducts. Things that they typically do to blacks, the other ones are collateral damage. Well, it happens to them.
There's more white people in America, so there's more poor white people.
Right,
in America.
The percentage.
Because there's more people.
Mm-hmm. But then you see the percentage of blacks who are having kids out of wedlock. It's almost at 80% now. 80% of almost 80% of black children are born out of wedlock. That's scary. And then you look at the amount of black women with herpes. 48% of them have herpes. So the sexual promiscuity, the sexual just deviancy of what we're doing, at this point, that's what it is.
So according to Google, once again.
The bastion of intelligence.
And it shows, this is like the first thing that comes up as like a feature on Google. Non-Hispanic blacks, children in single parent homes is 67%.
No, it's way higher than that.
American Indian or Native Alaskans are 53%. Hispanics are 42%. And non-Hispanic whites are 25%.
You see how to drop though, even in that. See,
so based on your overall number, you're saying that, essentially whites are having kids out of wedlock at less than half that blacks are.
Yeah, 25% based on that says 68%.
Yeah, whereas Hispanics and whites are a little closer, 25 and 42.
It's promoted in our community. Think about it. You deal with the rap industry.
Yep.
At what point does it look like a dude is trying to get married? Everybody has children. You look at what's the guy's name who was with Sierra?
Future.
He's got a gang of kids and nobody says a word about it. Then you look at the other guy who cussed out the girl at the airline, Young Thug. They told me he's got a bunch.
Boosie got like 10 or 11 kids. DMX got a lot of kids.
DMX got the offense and the defense of football.
But you then look at Jay-Z. You look at Kanye, I think, depending on what's in the news currently.
Right.
You look at Swizz Beatz, Swizz and Alicia. You see some pretty dope examples of married couples. John Legend, he's not a rapper, but
that's rare. Like, to see this is rare. The brothers with a bunch of kids, like the T.I.'s and stuff.
T.I.'s married.
And he's married, but you see he has a bunch of kids by a bunch of women, though.
Before he got married.
That's all I'm saying.
And I think she had kids herself, actually, before they got married. They both, it was like a Brady Bunch kind of situation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. In our community, though, it's not looked upon as weird, or like, if you're a white woman and you have 2 kids by 2 different men, you figure your options are less when you're trying to date, when you're in the dating world, because no one wants to start a family with a woman who already has one. That's why the numbers are so low. But in our community, I did a radio show, and I just asked a simple question. I said, men without kids shouldn't date women with kids. Yeah. And black women with nuts. I didn't say black men. I didn't even put a color to it. Look at what happened with Aisha Curry. Aisha Curry said something as simple as, well, just be modest, dress modest. who went off on her the most? Black chicks. Black chicks were mad. How dare you say this? You think you better than us. So you're having a situation where women will get mad when the men say, well, I kind of want to start my own family. Well, the reason why that would bother black women is because so many of them have children already.
Well, I think that happens anyways, regardless of whether it's said out loud or not. I think that, I could just think in my personal life, I didn't really date women with kids. From step one, I was like, I'm good.
Now watch how much flack you get from saying that. Watch.
It is what it is.
But,
because I really didn't have any idea what children were about. I did not looking to, I think from my point of view, I remember this one time, I'm sure she's gonna be watching this and getting upset. But this one time I dated this one girl who had a son, and I remember how she sort of pushed her son onto me like right away after like our maybe second or third date. And I remember thinking, I didn't know if I was gonna be serious about her, and I thought that this was gonna be damaging to the son. So that was one of the reasons why I just sort of said, nah, I'm good. Because I don't think it's good for a little boy to see men coming in and out of his mother's life. And just as a single man with no kids, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Amen. But see, the problem is, the majority of us young black men, we saw our moms date. Most of us never saw our mom married. We saw our mom be someone's girlfriend. Even these rappers, what do you see them seeing after they get big? LeBron James, he gets big, he gets a wife, he gets his kids, his life is settled down. What is his mom doing? Having boyfriends.
Yeah, but LeBron is married.
No. That's what I said. He's got his life together. He's got his life right.
Kobe's married.
But you see these, but then you have to look at the other people. Even listen to what Kevin Durant said about Westbrook. Westbrook, a man who had his father. Because he had his father, he went out and got a wife. He's a settled down guy.
Here's the thing. Sorry to interrupt you. But and I was actually talking about this recently. Let's take a look at the environment. So you look at, let's say, rap music, and rap music ultimately doesn't really promote marriage.
That's right.
I'm 100% with you on this. Is there a rap song about let's get married?
No.
I know there's an R&B song.
And that's old.
That's old.
And that almost sounds like he got forced into it. We ain't getting no younger, we might as well do it.
Right, yeah. I'll show him. Just tell me what
You know
day
what
it
I'm
is.
saying?
I remember that. We ain't get no younger, we might as well do it. Now, I didn't notice it was almost like a shade kind of thing. Like, yeah, I feel you. There is no marriage type songs in hip hop. Kanye mentions his wife every so often. Jay-Z mentions his wife in certain songs. But let's take a look at the NBA, and the NBA actually pushes marriage because of the family type atmosphere of their audience. They promote their players to get married.
And they promote the guys who are married and who have stable family lives,
Right,
which
exactly.
I appreciate that. Because like I
Exactly.
said, when I listened to Kevin Durant, that hurt me when he said, well, one of the reasons why he left is because he understands Westbrook is going to be good because he got a wife. He came from his dad. I don't have a dad. I'm still trying to find myself. I was so glad he said it because it was an honest answer. Because Kevin Durant is the same guy who got up on stage and said, Mama, you the real MVP. Now, Vlad, I want you to do me a favor. Go back to almost every draft in every sport where blacks dominate. When you watch the table of that draft pick, you see mama, you see aunt, you see sisters. You rarely see father. And every time they get up there, they thank they mama. All these rap songs, you've been in rap, you listen to these rappers.
Michael Jordan.
Right, they're all right. He was one of the few,
Michael
and look at how
Jordan.
strong he was. How stuff didn't bother him.
Thanked his father.
Right, the stuff didn't bother him. You
Kobe
watch
Bryant thanked his father.
Right, even though they're on the outs.
LeBron's dad wasn't around. So,
LeBron said he doesn't even want to know his father. That's
Right.
another reason why I at least wanted to know more about him.
Well, and
LeBron says he didn't want to know.
Here's an interesting one. Shaquille O'Neal, his real father wasn't around, but his stepfather was around. I remember he had a song called My Biological Didn't Bother, and he talked about how much of a role model his stepdad was.
Well, and you have to think about that too. These men, if you watch the ones who have their fathers, they can deal with more crap. They're more settled. They're not swayed by what the public says. Look at what Kobe went through. There was no way the average person would have been able to go through that crap and just keep his head down and still change his mindset and work towards his goal with all that crap on him, but he did it. Michael Jordan, same thing. He was able to just put his head down, do his job. These other guys sway with the wind. Allen Iverson, Michael Vicks, all of these guys can be thrown into a tizzy when stuff goes wrong. You look at Steph Curry, had a father. He has someone to look up to. You look at Barry Bonds, same thing. Look at what Barry Bonds was able to achieve under all the scrutiny he had. And then you look at somebody like Kevin Durant who says, I don't want to do it myself. You look at someone like LeBron James who said, I'd rather go work with these other guys.
I think that the lack of promotion of fathers and mothers being married or just being together for however you work it out is not good. Like I said, I think the welfare system is a main culprit. Because like I said, it promotes, when you offer people more money to do damn near anything, they will probably end up doing it, regardless of how good or bad it is in the long run. Mm-hmm. It's not promoted in the music. I think it's too bad, because I think that the ideal is to have a two-family home.
And fathers matter.
Yeah,
that's what's scary
100%.
to me. They're saying fathers don't matter. If you look in all of these situations, there was a story I did about a young girl. She's a model or whatever. There's a story about her, and you may have seen, I think you did it on your website. The girl who was arrested after she left her kids in the car to go to the Lil Wayne concert.
Yeah, I think we covered that.
Yeah, she was on my show. She came on my show, and she had 3 kids at the time, left 2 of them in the car. She was trying to explain the situation away, of course, because she's not going to admit to it. She was like, I just left them there to go pick up some tickets. I wasn't really going to stay at the concert, whatever. But I made her cry on the show. We had a come to Jesus moment. She's like, because she's beautiful, and she has 3 kids by 3 different men at the time. And she said, well, I'm going to school for nursing, and this will never happen again. People sent me a message within 4 weeks of her Instagram with a black dude laying on her stomach, because all her kids are black, all her kids' fathers are black dudes, laying on her stomach with the caption, we're pregnant. So I started calling her 4x4, because she had 4 kids by 4 different dudes. She got mad at me and went off on me and was like, me and my man good. Do you know within 4 weeks she had posted on Instagram, just be ready for the child support, because they're gonna be on your ass. Before she even had the baby. Everybody in the comment section was telling her, girl, don't worry, you could do this by yourself. There's another girl who's coming on my show next week. She's 34 years old. She has 8 kids by 8 different men. And all she does is post about how she good. She good. Nobody white would do this in public and just sit and say, I'm good, I'm good. And people would praise this. In the black community though, it's no problem, because ratchet women and a bunch of kids is something that our mothers did. So how can we look down on some girl who's a potential date when our mother was the same person? Blacks have no identity now. Like right now, there's a guy, and I hate bringing his name up, but why not? Tariq Nasheed. Tariq Nasheed has this doll that's out called Crispy. Crispy is making fun of me because I'm so black. Now, what other race just sits around and does this, but is accepting of the mixed race? Because there's a woman who was in Japan, and she was mixed, and they weren't, she was the beauty queen or whatever. They weren't accepting of her just because she was mixed. But black people love mixed people. Black people love anybody who will hang out with black people. We call Coco black because she got a big butt. You don't have to be black, and you can hang out with black people, and black people love you, especially if you're not black. Because people my color, the regular black people, they get made fun of.
But you're technically mixed.
And they say everybody technically is, but the skin color, when you look black and no one questions you, because people don't walk up to me and say, what are you mixed with? Nope,
right.
That question doesn't get asked.
But if you look at your DNA, you'll probably find some other things mixed in there.
Well, yes.
Most people in America, that's just the reality of it.
No, that's true. But see, black people are more racist against themselves. Because I say before white supremacy ever hits me, black supremacy has already overrun me. My whole life, I'm 41 years old. The biggest complaint I've ever gotten from the time I was little, even from my mother, was how dark my skin was, that it was a bad thing. My mother used to tell me, do not go outside because you're getting blacker. My mother met my daughter.
Really? She would say that to you?
Yeah. My mother has not seen my daughter since my daughter was 3. Do you know why? Because when my daughter was 3, I brought her around, and my daughter's 10 now. She said the same thing to my kid. She said, you got to keep her out of the sun. She's getting dark. This is what the black community is. The fact that a pro-black man who's talking about melanin, Tariq Nasheed, makes a dog called Crispy, making fun of how black I am, that I'm crispy black, and no one says a word. He says there's power in melanin, to the point of where there's melanin is magic. What, I got too much? These are black people. Because if you have a black person that looks like me, and then a mixed person that looks like you, but he still gets, Sean King, they didn't know if he was black or not because he had a John B. haircut. He's a white guy, but he was able to say he was black.
Well, and what's her name?
Rachel Dolezal.
Dolezal, yeah.
These were supposed to be black people. Now, how can I compete against someone that looks like that, whose hair is completely different, whose skin is completely different? So if someone says you're all black, then we'll get mad if somebody say, but I like that kind of black. Like in the rap videos, they get mad that they don't have dark black girls. Well, if they're black girls, why would it matter? That's the point.
Well, I remember watching rap videos, and this was something that she actually talked about in an interview years later. I remember it was all like light-skinned girls, like through the 80s and
light-skinned dudes too.
Early 90s, and then Foxy Brown came along, and it seemed like at that point, having like this bad dark-skinned chick kind of became the thing with her moving forward. These days, I don't know, I think it's all over the place. I don't think that light skin or dark skin in terms of women, black women, is a huge difference in terms of visually what I see. I mean,
wouldn't prove you wrong, and I'm gonna give you an opportunity to get one of the belts.
Okay.
Tell me if I'm wrong. Listen. Let's go back to the 80s all the way up to now. You said Foxy Brown. Well, every time there was a dark-skinned chick, the dark-skinned chick was mean, masculine, and pretty much could fight you like a guy. That was her angle. The light-skinned girl was always the pretty girl, the sweet girl, the one you wanted to marry, the one you'd settle down with. Let me start back in the 80s.
Okay.
The Cosby Show. All of his light-skinned kids were nice and sweet. The dark ones were sassy. Tell me I'm lying.
You saying Rudy was sassy? I thought Rudy was sweet. I mean,
that was her thing, being sassy. She was sweet feet, was a football player.
Yeah, I don't think they villainized Rudy.
I didn't say villainized. I just said
that's
they were
kind of what you're
sassy.
implying, though.
No. That one of them is more feminine than the other. Is all I'm saying.
But this was a little girl.
I know, but they had the big one.
Raven Simone, when she came on the show, was just as sassy as Rudy, and she was light skinned, right?
Now let me point out. I'm gonna keep going.
Okay.
A different world.
Okay.
The dark skin one.
No, wait. Let's go back to the Cosby Show. Hold on. Like, I don't know if I'm feeling you on this. Though.
Okay.
Like, I'm agreeing with you. That's what I meant. Because, like I said, yeah, Rudy was sassy, but she wasn't a woman yet. It wasn't like she wasn't like a teenager or a young woman or a college age. 'Cause the oldest sister was like in college, right?
Yeah, there were two light-skinned older ones, Lisa Bonet,
and then her older sister who was in college.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was
Vanessa,
and then Rudy. Then later on, Raven Simone came on board.
Mm-hmm. Now remember, Vanessa and Rudy were always the smart mouth ones. The two light ones were the ditzy ones. They were just ditzy and the world went by them. Same thing with Fresh Prince. The light skinned one was the ditzy one. The one that you thought was pretty though. You go back to A Different World. Same thing. The light skin was the one who was, when she took over for Lisa Bonet, when Lisa Bonet messed up. She was the same thing. She was the cultured one, the rich one, coming from the rich family. The dark one was the one who was 30 in college with a kid. You keep on going. I can give you story after story after story. Almost every time, the light girl is always the cute one, the sweet one, the one you marry.
Okay.
Look at Gina and Pam. Pam was like a man. She was literally Martin in female form.
I mean, Pam was definitely a little more managed than
And that's why they talked about it in school days.
Wait, hold on.
Hey, what's up, Vlad?
What's up?
I had to present Crispy with
Don't
that
do
award.
that.
What's
don't
up,
do that.
Crispy? I had to give you your award,
Yeah,
Crispy.
I had no idea that this is.
You set this up,
Crispy.
dog.
I did not set this up.
You set this up. Yes, you
Crispy,
did.
I
Come on,
had-
dog.
Actually, I have no idea.
Then why is he in here?
Tariq,
I gotta
why is
give
he
you
in
your
here?
award.
Why is he in
I
here?
just came to give you
Tariq,
your
do I
award.
This is a
have
grown
any
man.
idea?
Crispy, let
This
me
is a
give you
grown
your
man. This is a
Crispy
grown
award.
man. This is a grown
Crispy,
man.
let me give you your award,
And
Crispy.
This is a grown man. This is a grown man.
Shout out to Vlad. Shout out to my homie Vlad. I had
This
to
a
give
grown
Crispy
man.
his award.
This is a grown
I
man. You
had to
set this
present
up.
Crispy with his award. Watch out,
That's
Vlad.
cool, though. Man, no, get out my
Crispy,
face, man.
Let me give you your
I want
award,
you back
Crispy.
up.
Let me give you your award, Crispy. There you go.
And you letting this roll, huh?
Let me
We can
give you
turn it
your
up.
award,
No, you set this
Crispy.
up.
I honestly did not set this up.
Yeah, you did.
Crispy, let me
I
give
honestly
you
Then why
did
is
not
he
set
still in my
Crispy.
face then?
Crispy,
I have no
let me
idea.
give
Y'all
you
keep
your
about my
award.
face, but y'all ain't.
Crispy, let me give you your award.
Tariq, this is our interview. Can you
Okay,
leave, please?
I'm a bounce. My bad.
Okay.
How you doing, though, Vlad? You good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Shout out to DJ Vlad. Hidden Colors 4 available right now,
Okay.
family.
Tariq, can you leave our
I can
interview,
bounce.
please?
I can bounce. All right, Crispy, you're not gonna take. Let me leave
Man,
your
go
award
on.
right here.
Hey, man, get out my
Crispy,
face, dog.
let me give you your award, Crispy.
You go and get out my face, man.
Crispy,
So you,
are you-
that's the crispy calling me for my dark
okay.
skin. That's
Crispy.
it.
Did you
Crispy, I got-
okay, real quick,
Let me
did you
give you
announce
your
this
award,
on your
Crispy.
social media that you're coming here?
Huh?
Did you announce on your social media that you're
Yep.
doing? Okay, well, he's been here before also in the same
Whoa,
room.
Crispy,
That's
So
the
this is a
your
grown
award,
man.
Crispy.
This is the
Go ahead,
only
turn
thing I
your
can
camera
think
on.
of.
Crispy,
I did
record
not
this
set.
fool.
I did not set this
Record
up.
this
and
fool. Record this fool.
You want to record?
Crispy, get
Yeah,
your
record
award,
this fool.
Crispy.
Record this grown ass fool.
Now, Crispy, you were giving death threats like you were supposed to kill me and all
No,
this
nigga,
shit.
you told me I can't
Where's
come
the-
to LA. No, you told me I can't come to LA.
Where's the-
You told me I can't come to LA.
Where's the-
You
Crispy?
said I left
Crispy.
LA because you was gonna do something to me.
But
That's
where's
what
the
you
killing,
told me.
Crispy?
You told me I was gonna come. If I
Where-
don't come to LA,
where's
you
the
gonna do
killing?
something to me.
Where's
I
the
ain't
killing?
seen it.
Crispy, where's the
I ain't
killing?
seen it.
Where's the
I ain't seen it. You
I'm
told me
giving
I
you
can't
an
come to
award, Crispy.
LA. You said I can't come to LA. I
Crispy.
keep coming to LA.
Crispy,
I
where's
keep
the
coming to LA. No, you were supposed to do something
Where's
to
the
me.
killing,
You the one
my
that's
nigga?
mad. You the one that's
I
mad.
ain't
Donated
mad.
and
I'm
got
trying to
mad.
give you your
You the one that's mad.
I'm
Do your
trying to give
puppet.
you an award.
Do your puppet, dog. You the one that's mad.
Where's the
I
killing,
ain't
though,
mad.
Crispy?
You the one said you was gonna kill me. I ain't had to kill
Somebody
you.
want to kill your crispy ball spot having ass bitch?
You the one who
Well,
said
here's
you
your
was gonna
award,
kill me.
Crispy.
You
Here's
the
your
one who
award.
said you was gonna kill
Here's
me.
your award, Crispy.
You the one who said you was gonna kill
Where's
me.
the killing, player?
How you gonna offer to kill somebody and then ask me what a killing is?
Wait, you got a video talking about you were going to kill
No, you said you was gonna take all my shit, and I said
Hidden
anybody that
Colors
takes all my
4
shit.
available right now, family. And why you
I ain't
covering
got
up
time
your
to
ball
argue.
spot, player? Let people
I ain't got
see.
time to argue.
Let your scalp breathe, my nigga.
I ain't got time to argue with this
Oh,
grown ass punk.
I'm gonna leave your award right here, Crispy, along with your tap shoes.
All right, you can leave it with your white wife.
There you go. All right, Crispy.
All right,
There you go. All right,
leave it
Vlad,
with your white wife.
my man.
All right,
Y'all have
Tariq.
a good one, Vlad.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
You're a cute sister right here, Crispy. You and the sisters now, brother?
Shut up.
You and the
Shut up.
What you gonna do?
You just mad.
What am I, man?
Go
Get
back,
your
go back
award.
with your white wife.
All right, Tariq.
You wouldn't have had to waste your
Tariq.
time if I wasn't a man.
I'm
You wouldn't have had to waste your
But
time,
I
nigga, if I
wanted to
wasn't a
see where all
man.
this killing was gonna go, Crispy, with all
You
these
said
cool
you was gonna
awards.
kill me, nigga.
What's with all the
You
where's
said
the,
you was
where's
gonna, you
the
said
killing?
you ran me out of LA.
Where's the
You ran me out of LA. nigga. I
Stop
thought
all
you
the
ran
talk
me out
talk.
of LA.
You ain't gonna do shit.
You
Stop
ain't
the
gonna do
talk
nothing.
talk.
You said I ran out of
I don't
LA
threaten
because of
niggas,
you.
no.
Yes, you did.
I didn't threaten you.
You said I
left.
left LA because of you and I'm scared to come back. That's what you said.
See, this is how bitch niggas operate right here. They
This
do a lot of
came over
talking,
my
but
face.
they ain't gonna do nothing.
You the one who made the threat.
These bitches do
My
a
hand
lot
on
of
the
talking,
belts.
but
My
they
hand on
don't
the
do
belts.
nothing.
Whatever you said
All
you're
right.
gonna do, you can do.
All right. Sorry about that, Vlad.
All right.
Y'all have a good day.
Bitch ass grown man. That's what
You
y'all
didn't
just
do
saw.
nothing, no
You the one who made the threat.
Do nothing.
You made the
You keep
threat.
making these little slick comments, but you
You
didn't do
made the
nothing.
threat.
You keep making
You
these little
made
slick
the
comments.
threat.
Up, I'm bitch
You
ass
made
do
the
something,
threat.
Crispy.
You made the
If
threat,
I'm
nigga.
bitch ass do
You
something,
made the
Crispy.
threat.
If
You
I'm
made the
bitch
threat.
ass do something,
You
Crispy.
made the threat. You made the threat.
All right, that's it. That's
That's
it.
what I
That's
thought.
it.
You
That's
made
it.
the
That's
threat.
it. That's
I'm
it.
supposed to find that told me he made the threat. He
Dude.
told me I won't come to LA. I'm chilling in
Dude.
LA. I'm always in LA.
You doing all
I'm
this
always
tough
in
talking
LA.
about what you gonna do.
You
what you
said
doing?
you was gonna do it.
I'm here.
Do
What
you
are you
forget
doing?
that you said you was gonna do it?
I'm here, Crispy.
Show the
What are you
video
doing?
what I said. I see Tariq.
I'm
I'm
here.
whooping
Yo,
Tariq's
Crispy
ass.
talk all that
ain't what I
shit, but
said.
I'm right here on Crispy's
Why
ass.
don't
He
you
ain't
show
doing
it?
shit.
Why
Look
don't
at
you
this
show the
bitch.
video?
All right,
what I said?
Tariq. Tariq.
Grown ass.
All
All
right.
right.
Pap, pap. Put out one of them lame ass songs.
All right. First and foremost, I did not set that up. He has done an interview sitting exactly where you're sitting. So if you announce that you're doing an interview, then that's what happened. I don't do setups. That's not my thing. You can believe me now. Believe me.
So them niggas just walk up in your shit like this.
It is what it is. But I was not involved in any of this. It's not my style. You could watch 100 interviews by me. You'll see nothing like this has ever happened before.
It is what it is. I still finish the interview.
Okay, so Tariq Nasheed just came in.
Yep.
And this was actually going to be one of my questions. Did you threaten to kill him at one point?
No, I ain't threatened to kill this motherfucking man. He said straight up, I'm gonna take all time. I'm gonna make sure Crispy go broke. And I said, you do that. And if I lose everything, I'll come see you.
Okay, so where is this whole killing thing coming from?
He made something up. He said that I won't come to LA, that he got thugs on me. Even came at one time when I was doing something with Tim Alexander, sent some now to act like he was threatening me inside of a live show I was doing. That's him. You can look this up. It's him who said he ran me out of LA. It's him. That's the grown man who said I ran him out of LA. He refused to come back. So every time I come back to LA, I keep saying, I thought you ran me out of LA. Why do I keep coming back to LA? Whatever you're gonna do, do it.
Well, you can't really run someone out of a city, period.
But that's the lie he told him.
It's something that you could say out loud, but you really can't run someone out of an entire city.
But to walk up on me and now say, what are you gonna do? You're the one who made the threat. You're the one who bothered by me. My presence bothers this man.
Okay. So you never threatened to kill him?
No, I stood up there and said, he told people he gonna take away everything from me. I said, if you take everything from a man, the man has nothing to do left but come see you.
Okay. But you haven't gotten everything taken away from you?
No.
You're okay still?
Right, that's why he's still fucking with me. He has nothing better to do than make crispy dolls and give out Coon Train awards.
So he actually left a
Coon
Plantation
Train
Celebration Award, AKA the Coon Train Awards. He brought you one?
So when you wonder why I would talk that way about black folks, especially black folks without their damn fathers and stuff like that, that man, colorism, that man.
So the crispy's referring to your skin color?
Yep.
And Tariq Nasheed is lighter skinned?
No, not even that much. You saw him standing here. That's most of the time, it's not mixed people who are saying that stuff to me.
Because he's not mixed. He has black parents.
Yeah, that's right. Most of the time, you don't see mixed people calling black folks crispy. It's other black people. But then the same man who talks about how great melanin is, remember, he's got a thing called Melanoid Nation. What would be the joke in my skin color's dark? From that guy. That's like a guy saying I'm cool with black folks, and as soon as he get mad at another black person, calls him a nigga. But say, oh, I'm just talking to him because he made me mad. That's his logic. Oh, I'm just making fun of his black skin particularly. Not everybody who's dark. But he did the same thing to Corey Holcomb. Then he got mad at Corey Holcomb. He said, this black as a package. What did he say? He looks like a package of soy sauce. So skin color is his issue. Then you turn around and see he has a half-white Jewish wife, Mr. Hidden Colors.
So she's half black, half white?
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Hidden Colors. He actually has a video on Instagram where his mixed son is holding the crispy doll, making fun of the crispy doll. This man's 45.
His son would be 3/4 black.
Or whatever it is really light skinned and look like Steph Curry.
Okay. So this is clearly an issue in the black community. Mm-hmm. The different variations of melanin.
Black folks don't like black people, and mixed people keep getting called black.
Well, how much of that you think comes from slavery times?
Oh, it all comes from slavery time.
Because if you were light-skinned during slavery times, that meant that the plantation owner or someone from the house had sex with one of the slaves and made a mixed race baby. And a lot of these kids ended up being in the house and treated differently and so forth because they're part of the family of the slave masters, right?
Well, it all came from slavery. And then you have to think about this whole idea that they say one drop makes you whole. That's not a black rule.
What does that mean?
If you have any drop of black in you, you're black.
Okay.
White people came up with that rule. Why would they want to discount their own bloodline? I had a conversation with a white guy and a black wife. I said, what would you consider your kid? A kid's directly mixed, biracial. Mm-hmm. He said, black. I said, why would you discount your entire bloodline? He said, I don't know, the kid's just black.
Well, black genes are dominant over white genes most times. So most times when you have mixed race kids, you have the kids look a little more like the black side because of just gene science. It's not as much, as much on the perception side. But for example, you go to Brazil and mix people who look more light-skinned aren't considered black, they're considered mulatto, something like that. There's a certain,
mulatto, octoroon, they're different
Not
names.
mulatto, it was another term for it. Because I remember I was with my friend who was mixed in Brazil and we were having Brazilians explain it to us. where it's just considered its own thing. It's not considered black. In America, if you're one drop black, most times you're considered black, unless you have certain people, like let's say, the rapper Logic. You familiar with him?
No.
He's half black, half white, but he looks more white.
What about Quincy Jones' daughter, Rashida Jones?
Rashida
She
Jones.
plays white roles, but she still says, I'm black because she has to say
A
it.
black father, which Quincy Jones was pretty.
Well, you know what I mean?
Somebody
Like-
don't want to discount.
Like Lionel Richie's daughter. Lionel Richie's daughter said she would be around her white friends and they would make jokes about black people, and
I
then
heard
she'd
about that.
tell them I'm black.
I'm
And
black,
like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah, I think it's bad that you have a mixed race person and they don't identify with both sides of the race.
That's the
I think
point.
they absolutely should identify. Being biracial, being half Chinese, half Mexican, half Jewish, half white, half Irish, half whatever.
Because look at Hines Ward. Hines Ward gets to say he's black. Hines Ward, the football player. I don't know. Look him up. Hines Ward, he's half and half.
How
Or
do you spell
Tiger
that?
Woods. Huh?
Hines?
Heinz, like Heinz the ketchup.
That's Hines Ward. Hines.
Yeah. He can't go to Japan and say he's Japanese. But he can say he's black and everybody agrees with he's black. Tiger Woods, same thing. Say he's black.
Half Thai.
Yeah, but he can't say he's Thai. How's that possible? If you're half of something, if you take yellow and blue, what do you have? You have green. You don't have yellow
I
or
have
blue.
been in Thai restaurants and there was pictures of Tiger Woods.
Because he's
in
popular.
some of these Thai restaurants.
Just like Jack Johnson was
I
not black.
think, hold on. I think that the nation of Thailand holds great honor, that are very much honored that someone who is half Thai is considered the greatest golfer of all time.
You see what he has to do, though. It's the equivalent of Jack Johnson wasn't like
Well,
regular Negroes because he was a
Does
champion.
Thailand care about a random half Thai guy somewhere else? No.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
blacks care about a random mixed person. We will get mad if a random mixed person does not say that they're black. Mixed girls get beat up all the time. There are videos all the time of mixed girls. They call into my show talking about stories they've had of where they got their face slashed and their hair cut.
You see really extreme behavior. You can find extreme behavior for damn near anything.
You could.
Are there some inherent problems in terms of what you're talking about? Absolutely. I just think that when you start bringing up, and this guy cut his head off, and there's all these like extreme situations.
But
you
these
could
aren't
use-
extreme. When these mixed
Getting your
girls are
face
getting
cut
their hair,
is
No,
pretty
no.
extreme. Most people don't get their face cut.
You would believe that until you see the numbers inside of these inner city schools.
One of my exes actually got her face cut.
So I was about to say that story is too common for it to be extreme.
Yeah, one of my exes, I remember she told me this whole story. She was dancing with a guy, his girlfriend shows up, pulls a razor out, cuts her in the face.
These stories are way
So
too
forth.
common to be extreme, to be considered
But
extreme.
it
in our
is
community.
considered
Like a 7-year-old getting shot is extreme in most cultures in the United States.
7-year-old,
not-
a child getting killed is extreme in any culture.
That's what I'm saying. But in our community, in the black community, if you go just look up the stats of the ages of the people who are being murdered, it's ridiculous how young they are in the black community, and they're being savagely murdered, shot all the time. In Chicago, they executed a 9-year-old because they thought they saw a crime. They thought the 9-year-old saw a crime and they executed him. 14-year-old girl shot.
Because they thought that he might testify?
Right. Didn't even know. They just saw he was in the area.
here's
Tyson Gay's daughter, shot, 14. I can keep on giving you the numbers of these.
Here's an
teens.
inherent problem, and this is, I just interviewed this rapper named AOKD from Chicago, who was involved in a bunch of trauma himself. But what we talked about, which I thought was interesting, was when you look at certain communities, black communities in particular, there's this no snitching rule that pervades the community. So if you get beat up, you can't go to the police. If you get shot, you shouldn't identify the person who shot you. It gets very extreme to the point where you can't call the police for damn near anything. So then when you have a situation where you feel that someone deserves to be punished for what it is that they do, based on the community guidelines, you have to go and take it into your own hands. You have to go and retaliate by shooting that person, by killing that person, by beating up that person, by doing some sort of crime that once you get caught for that crime, it doesn't matter if you were quote unquote justified for doing it, you're going to jail as well. So you're setting up a situation if you can't call the police, you're setting up a situation where you're probably going to end up in jail just trying to get basic justice worked out in your life.
But look who this affects more in the black community, the males. The women are having all of these males, raising them to be overly violent and emotional to respond like the one who just walked in.
I agree that when you only have a woman raising you, you will act more emotionally than if you have a man, because women are naturally more emotional. And if that's all you're presented with year after year, you will be more emotional.
Because at a certain point, you'd even think, this man that's supposed to be an upstanding citizen, a man who's supposed to be on Fox News talking about how they're being portrayed, just walked in and made a complete ass of himself. For what reason? Because he has an audience full of black men who were raised by black women, who that type of drama makes all the sense in the world, even for their upstanding citizens who are trying to show the world we're different.
Well, I can't really comment on that, but this was definitely a fairly crazy situation. I mean, you thought that I had planned it out the whole time.
I honestly did, because I had said it before on my show last night. I said, I got the feeling that this is a setup.
Okay, you still feel it's a setup?
I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Okay, did you announce this interview on your social media?
No, I just said I'm going to do an interview with Vlad, yes.
Okay. And the Tariq Nasheed did an interview with VladTV as well in this exact same location.
Well, I've been at other places he ain't showed up. I've been telling people where I was at other places he didn't show up. I guess I'm a professional. Not right. I'm still a professional.
I am going to say, though, on the record, that I had no idea this was going to happen.
But still, even if you had nothing to do with it, you still have to ask yourself, at what point in time would a man who's supposed to be one of your Jesse Jacksons or your next civil rights leader, would they walk in to somebody else's interview, hand them a Coon Train award, use a word that has been used by racist whites against blacks, use that word over and over, call me the crispy coon. And these are words from an upstanding citizen. At a certain point in time, you'd look at Barack Obama or anybody like that and know there's certain games they're not gonna play because it would hurt your brand. That on a smart man who's thinking, I'm trying to move up, that's a bad look.
Depending on how you're trying to look.
That's what I'm saying.
So you've actually made comments about Barack Obama in terms of, hold on, let me not misquote you on this. If Obama had a white woman, he would never had a chance to be president, even though he came from a white woman. He didn't even date black women before Michelle. So that was all political.
Yep. Here's the thing. There's a show called Scandal.
Right.
Scandal's been long running and black women love it. Strange though, had you did the same thing but had a black president who was cheating on his black wife with a white woman, it wouldn't have lasted 2 or 3 episodes. Wanna know why I know this? Because there's no such thing that exists. Black women tried to boycott Red Tails because the black male who was in Italy happened to have a white love interest. When you see these black males, Todd Gurley, a running back here for the LA Rams, he put up a picture on his Instagram of him in the bathroom with his girlfriend. He got hate mail. Every one of these black men who are celebrities, who has a non-black woman, they get hate mail for just having this woman. But every black woman who has a non-black man, she gets fan mail. She doesn't get anybody saying they're gonna boycott her. Nobody ever said they're gonna boycott Eve. No one's ever said they're gonna boycott Janet Jackson. No one's ever said they're gonna boycott even Diane Carroll when she was doing it.
Well, the percentage of black men who end up marrying white women is extremely higher than the percentage of black women who end up marrying white men?
It's 3 to 1.
3 to 1. Mm-hmm. That's 300%.
Well,
that's not even close.
Well, here's what you also have to understand. White men have had access to black women since slavery days. So what does that tell you about black women? If they have access to black women, They don't get called out for it by black people. Black women aren't ostracized for doing it, and it's still not done very often. They've had access way before black men did. You have to go back to Emmett Till, who got murdered for just whistling at a white woman.
Right. Well, at one point, black-white marriage was legal. Yeah, you could have sex with a black woman, but you couldn't actually get married to a black woman.
And yet
that movie, Loving.
Yeah,
I think,
the first interracial marriage was black woman
with a white man. Right.
The first time you saw it on television, black woman, white man.
I don't know about that second
You can look it up. You even go back to the soap operas, and when that's why I brought up Diane Carroll. It was okay for Diane Carroll. It was okay for Josephine Bakers. It was okay for them to be with white men. Be Jack Johnson. Get you a white woman. Even though you're Jack Johnson, you get arrested. The Mann Act.
I think the basic problem, and I've talked to black women about this, is that once a black man marries a white woman and they have children and so forth, men generally die before the women, just in society, regardless of race. Once the white woman, if it's a successful man, she essentially takes whatever money and resources and power and so forth and brings it over to the white community.
Does she though, since we consider black children, children out of these mixed relationships, we consider them black. If they get the inheritance, black people just gain the inheritance.
That's a point.
That's why I was saying the problem with mixed, because you then threw it away and to make black women feel good and say, yeah, well, they take all of the black money. No, that's not true, because you just claimed all of those people were black. Barack Obama gets claimed black, and he was raised by a white woman.
And a white grandmother.
Right, the first black president was raised by a white woman, but no one wants to point this out.
Lenny Kravitz, white father, black mother.
Right. Man.
I'm trying to think what other famous children came from a...
Because Diana Ross's kids are pretty down to earth.
Diana Ross.
Mm-hmm. Her kids are pretty...
But you know something, you're also talking about rich people. So when you talk about rich people, because me and Nick Cannon had this conversation recently. So when we were talking about his kids and racism and stuff like that, and he said, well, my kids are probably going to be in a bubble. Because like, at the end of the day, this is Nick Cannon, Mariah Carey's children. They could always pull that card out.
Well, I say the same
and
thing.
And people go take a step back and say, oh, okay, that's hundreds of millions of dollars behind this particular situation.
Well, people were asking me about my daughter, and I said, it's not fair for me to compare your child to my child. My daughter goes to private school. She's going to have a different situation. She's not like you were bringing up economics. Economics is an issue. I'm not stupid enough to ignore
I think it's the biggest issue. I think that when you take any person of any background and you give them a whole bunch of money and you give them nannies, you put them in a mansion, you put them in the best schools, you give them, and you also instill a feeling that the whole world is possible. You could achieve all this. This is normal. You see what I'm saying? And this is, for example, sorry to interrupt, but one of the things when people that have come to VladTV have said, you know, Obama was the worst president ever, he did a shitty job, he did nothing for the black community, etc. I say, the one thing he did do is show every black kid in the world that you could be the president of the United States.
But did he do that when his background?
He absolutely did that. He 100% absolutely did that.
Did he do that though when his background is different than theirs? Has a white mom who decided to say to him, I'm going to forego my life to make sure you have everything. Because when I go to these inner city schools, and I've had plenty of teachers talk about this, that parents don't show up on parent-teacher day. They only show up, the mothers, those single mothers, they don't show up until it's time for their kid to get suspended. These black women that you see out here, they're spending every dime they have on their weave and their outfit. But how many have you heard of them say, I'm going to spend every dime to make sure my kid can be bused over to this good school. I'm going to go pay for a private school. You don't see that.
You see a lot of single moms working 2 jobs to put their kids through private school. There's a lot of there's a lot of mothers who sacrifice for their kids. You can't say every black
No,
mother.
I didn't say every.
You cannot.
I
can't
asked
even
you to
say
point.
that.
No, I didn't say every.
There was even a situation of a woman going to jail because she lied about where her son actually lived so he could be in a better school, and she ended up going to jail over it for kind of falsifying information. And
Right.
because
that was in Maryland.
Maryland, yeah. She said that her son lived, I think, at her father's house. And it was very kind
I
of
did
close.
it. There was more to that than how it was presented to the public, as most of it is.
Yeah.
But my point is, I never said it was all. My point is, you rarely see these huge number of women who have the opportunity to take their money and just get their kids out of these schools. Just like you pointed out that one, I can point out to you in Chicago, a black woman who was on the news talking about she lost all 5 of her children to gun violence in the neighborhood. Well, let me ask you something, Vlad. If you had 5 children, after one of them got shot in the neighborhood, what would you do?
You would move.
Instead, she's on television wanting sympathy after 5 children have been murdered.
There's a lot of mothers and fathers out there that should not have been mothers and fathers. I think that this is established. I don't think this is up for debate. I think that there's a lot of people who should have gotten abortions, who did not, who should have taken a Plan B, or who should have used a condom. In fact, there's kind of an interesting story that I read at one point. There was this book called The Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, I think. You ever heard of this guy? It was a New York Times bestseller. So what they did was they looked at a certain year, crime dropped significantly. There was a huge drop in crime, and no one could quite figure out why it was, because more or less America was making the same amount of money, the social issues were more or less the same, and so forth. There was a huge drop off in crime. And what they figured out was this was roughly 15 years after Roe versus Wade passed. And once you made abortion legal, you suddenly had all these situations of people who did not want to have children, who now could abort the children and not put a whole bunch of people into the world in a bad situation. Not a 2-parent home, rape, whatever you want to call it, 15 years old, whatever situation is, side chick, whatever else, up until Roe versus Wade, you had to have that child, or you had to risk your own life trying to abort it through a back alley, type situation where a lot of people end up dying because no actual hospital or medical facility could legally abort a baby. And suddenly you could abort a baby and you took all these people out of the equation. And because of that, the crime dropped.
I believe it. Let me ask you something. You said earlier. You said if you take poor white people, you get the same numbers as poor black people.
Yeah.
You also said there are more poor whites than poor blacks.
Correct.
Then by that logic, the roughest cities in the United States should be white. By your own logic. But it's not true. Kansas, nothing but poor people up in Kansas and all these back alley places. Guess what they don't have to deal with?
Well, hold on. You're also not talking about cities. You're not talking about urban environments where there's a lot of people in a small amount of space.
So all these poor white people are spread out and the black people are in one spot?
I think, if I'm not wrong, there are more black people who live in cities as opposed to rural communities. Is that right?
You would assume. I would assume. That one I don't know, so I can't say it. But I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to go with that thought.
I'm pretty sure. When you go through Kansas, you're not going to see a whole bunch of black people living in farms.
You're not going to see millions of people. But you remember there are
and the people are usually white. I think that it doesn't seem like blacks really
no, we don't
control the farming industry.
Yeah, we don't congregate in Minnesota, not Minnesota, but in Montana.
That's what I'm saying. You go to certain places and you're like, oh, a black person. It's like a unicorn or something. Wow.
But think of Chicago. Everybody knows Chicago's red line. They separate. I used to date a Russian chick from Chicago.
Okay.
She would talk about the red line. I didn't even know what that meant. She was like, well, people kind of self-segregate. The Russians stay here, even the Polish stay here.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own.
New York is the same way.
Right. But then you look at it. For some reason, where the blacks are congregating, because when you think of Chicago, when you hear white people or Russian people or whoever says Chicago, they're not thinking violent. But when you say black in Chicago, you think violence.
I think one of the problems is, and this is something that I talked to this one guy, Akala. He's from England. He was a rapper and also an activist. And he said that you don't have, in England, you don't have middle class or upper class black communities. You have rich blacks, of course, in the country, who live in the wider mixed communities and so forth. But you don't have like, I feel like Atlanta has an upper class black community.
Yeah, we do in the Camp Creek and the Decatur area.
That's what I'm saying. You don't see enough of that. I think if you had more affluent black communities, like Harlem used to be and so forth, you know, not
or
so much
Prince
anymore.
George's County in the DC area.
I think that would be just a better thing overall. And you know, and this kind of brings me back to the whole thing with Obama. It's like, I don't think you could, even though Obama did have a white mother, I don't think you could discount black people in general seeing this and saying it could be done. I didn't think there was going to be a black president in my lifetime. I really did not. Based on how racist America is, I really just did not think it was going to happen.
The stars aligned, I agree with you.
You had a guy that
You had a horrible president that preceded him.
a horrible president preceded him.
had
One of the worst presidents ever that preceded him. But you had a guy that was extremely charismatic,
Yes.
an incredible speaker. I would put him up there with the Kennedy.
And he could have never done that with a white wife, the other part that you asked me. Had he had a white wife, black women would have turned against him and black men would have followed. Black men follow black women. Even in this last election, black women voted for Hillary Clinton at a 96% clip, way higher than white women did. And that's one of their fellow white women. White women voted 56% for Donald Trump. Black women voted 96%
For Hillary
for
Clinton.
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Even though you have
Because
a
she was a
woman
woman.
who was under the presidency of her husband, arrested more blacks in the history of the country.
Right.
More black males were put in jail because of their policies, yet we as black people still refer to Bill Clinton as what? The first black president. Why? Because he cheated on his wife, smoked weed, and played the saxophone. That's all it takes to be black. You yourself have had black people, I'm sure you've had them say to you, you black like us, nigga.
Not exactly in those words, but I see where you're going with it.
No other race says that no matter how cool I am with other races, they don't say you're like us. They just say you're not like them, but they don't say you're like us.
Black people in general, what I found in terms of my experience is they're very inviting, more so than other races.
Because we
other
like everybody.
nationalities, which are more exclusionary.
Because we like everybody else better than we like ourselves. That's why mixed children do better amongst blacks, because we think they're prettier, because they don't have to buy sew-in weave. They actually like their hair. You ever notice on commercials? Every time they show a mixed girl, she has her natural curly hair.
What about Naomi Campbell? Considered one of the most beautiful women of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Very dark-skinned.
Yes. There's always one. Remember that if you bring in one of something.
Iman.
Yes. And these
Another
were
one.
spread out.
Now, the next one I think you've made some comments about, and that's Serena Williams.
Serena. I feel so bad for Serena. Serena had to become the dancer for Beyonce, light skin. She was twerking in front of the light-skinned woman as the light-skinned woman sits down and basically treats her like a stripper. Odd coming from the woman who's the most decorated sports athlete since FloJo. Why would she take that role? It's the same way as Simone Biles. Simone Biles, dark skin, Olympic gold medalist. What does her first big break get into entertainment? Being the side chick to a guy named Jake Miller, I think his name is. Jake Miller, a
Simone
singer.
Miles?
Yeah.
Who's that?
She's a gold medalist. The little short girl who won the gold medal.
Oh, just recently?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the...
There's a guy named Jake Miller, white guy, just average, ordinary white guy who did a video putting her in it. And black, you can go look in the comments, Vlad, you'll be disgusted. Well, if you were me, you would be. Black girls were swooning over the fact.
Jake Miller, Overnight, starring Simone Biles.
See?
Jake Miller was a singer?
Yeah, it's just some white guy that's supposed to be, you give him a haircut and he gets to be black if he sings the type of music like Usher or whatever.
I mean, I've never heard of this before until you're
Right.
mentioning it to me. It got 1.3 million views, which I'm sure having Simone Miles in the title probably got most of those views.
That's what I'm saying. So why would she, being who she was, have to help out this no-name white boy to the point of where in the comment section, you see nothing but black girls talking about how beautiful they are and hope they are a couple. Even saying comments like, their kids will be beautiful, which you always hear black women say about mixed couples. Those kids are gonna be beautiful. Now, in saying this white boy has a white girlfriend he's been with for years, but they pretended he wasn't. And even if you watch the video, it's funny. He never does anything with her but holds her hand. When he's in the bed, he's in the bed by himself. He doesn't do anything with her.
Probably because Simone Biles wasn't going to do a raunchy sex scene.
No, not raunchy sex, but I'm saying, no. I'm not saying that they
don't
were
think she's going to wear a thong and twerk in
what
a
I'm
video.
saying is like they didn't look like they were like a real couple. It just looked like she was his friend. But the black girls were saying, oh,
she's definitely a love
relationship.
interest. I mean, I'm watching this right now.
Right. They do the whole.
I guess I don't see what the big deal with this.
No, the big deal is how the women reacted.
Okay.
Because you do the same thing. I don't know if you remember the Cheerios commercial. Well, all they showed was a mixed kid and a black dad. And black women went nuts and tried to get them to take the commercial down. It was the sweetest commercial. Black women were upset saying that they're tired of seeing their black men insinuating that they have to get a white woman in order for success. And it was a Cheerios commercial.
I didn't see this actual commercial, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, like if you can look at every time you turn around and you see a black man with a white woman, there's a problem with it.
So, Serena Williams has a pretty exceptional body. So she does certain things because she has the body to do it. You can't say that FloJo had the same type of body that Serena Williams has.
She didn't have the top half, but she had the bottom.
She wasn't quite as curvy.
Right.
I would say that. I know who FloJo is, and yeah.
I'm old school.
Yeah. No, I mean, FloJo was, and you also got to think that FloJo was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was the 80s. They weren't doing that.
Right. I mean, Sir Mix-a-Lot shouted her out and Baby got back.
That's
you
right.
know, I keep my women like FloJo. So Serena Williams, I mean, you have social media now. It's sort of like, you know, so when she's twerking in video, a lot of times it's on her own Instagram or whatever else. I don't particularly see a problem with it.
It just fits my narrative.
I think she's an attractive woman.
It just fits my narrative of the things that dark-skinned girls have to do to get attention. They have to over-sexualize themselves like that, even though that's not their field. She doesn't.
I mean, what Ronda Rousey did a naked photo shoot for Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, for everyone does that whole the body issue.
The body paint.
Yeah.
She was naked.
Yeah, but
Serena
the guys
Williams
are doing that.
That's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about women right now. She
Right.
was naked. Ronda Rousey, the white UFC champion, although she's not the champion anymore, but at the time she was the biggest thing in UFC, male or female, was butt naked with body paint on in Sports Illustrated magazine. Serena Williams has never gone to that extreme.
Serena has done the body issue, ESPN the body issue, where she's naked.
Naked with the body paint? With
No,
her
she's just naked, period.
But with her titties out?
Well, they do it in quote unquote a tasteful, the same way of that. But they're naked. The ESPN the body is they're naked. That's the whole point of the ESPN the body issue. But same thing with Ronda Rousey. Nudity tastefully is what they both have done. But the whole thing is when you're twerking, and these aren't things that, again, it just looks weird for someone who's her to have to do that. Just my opinion. It just looks weird that she would have to do this.
I don't think she has to do it. I think she's wildly successful. She has more money than she'll ever be able to spend in her lifetime.
Because you'd have to ask yourself,
she's
why
going down as one of the greatest, if not. I mean,
she should be. I'm sorry. She should be the greatest. At this point, people argue
is she the greatest?
Navratilova, but.
Yeah, hold on. Greatest female tennis
player. You'll either get her or Navratilova.
Yeah, I mean, when it shows the list on Google, it's Serena Williams, Steffi Graf, Navratilova, Chris Evert, Venus Williams. Oh, the Venus sisters are in top 5.
Right.
Both of them. I didn't realize Venus was as good.
Yeah,
I guess so.
If it wasn't for Serena, Venus would be number 1.
Right.
Usually her sister kept beating her.
Right.
But she's an amazing athlete. But then you have to ask yourself, why does the number 1 tennis player in the world make less money than the chick who was struggling to become a tennis player? Now the other one ended up getting good.
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the
not
Russian chick.
Kornikova, but
yeah.
Kornikova at one point, but then people realized she just really wasn't good. But she was the highest paid.
She was dating
Alexei.
You're talking about hold on. Anna
Sergey.
No, wait. At one point she was dating Enrique Iglesias.
Oh yeah.
I mean, clearly this was an exceptionally pretty girl that was very marketable, that they capitalized off her looks.
So they're trying to make the other one look pretty. Everybody talks about Serena Williams with her
I don't think
body.
they try to make her look pretty. I think she was just pretty. I think it just
Serena
is what
Williams
it is.
when you and others talk about Serena Williams, what do you say? Her body. You don't say her face. Nobody talks about Anna's body. They say she's what you said. First words out of your mouth. Exceptionally pretty.
Me personally, when it comes to my taste in women, I prefer body over face. But that's just me as a man.
But you know, as a man also, body is not what we marry, it's what we have that night. Face is kind of what you want your children to kind of look like and what you want to walk into the company function with.
Depends.
You don't want to walk into the company function with a girl with a big ass. Even the thought process of big ass, the first thing you and I as a man, what do we think of when we see a girl with a big butt?
Sex.
Want to hit it from behind.
Right.
A pretty woman is one, and I've seen it on my show. Every time I have a woman that's like pretty, she might not have a body, but you watch the comments, the guys say, I'd marry her. Watch the girl with the body, they don't say that. They say something completely different. Why do you think we go to strip clubs? It ain't because we looking for a pretty woman.
Right, because you're not trying to have a daughter with a crazy body. This is just not something as a father
That's my point.
that you are trying to accomplish. You know, you want to keep your daughter off the pole. Like, this is not, you know, you're not trying to have a daughter with a crazy huge ass and all that other shit. You know, and in general, and this is something that
Men can compartmentalize, be honest. We can say that we want a woman for the night and we want a woman for life.
100%.
We separate them. Women, you can go from being a woman's
100%.
friend to being a woman's husband.
But the reality of wives and male-female relationships is that it ultimately comes down to the relationship and the personality.
Yes.
If you are trying to find a life partner based on how pretty that person's face is, it is not going to work out in the long term.
No.
That face will get wrinkled and ugly over time. That's just the reality of it.
Right, but
wrinkled and old. I'm not going to say ugly because there's nothing ugly about being old. But wrinkled and old, it will not be the same face that you saw 40, 50 years ago.
Very true. But your thought going into a first date with a girl who's really pretty and modest is completely different than a girl who just got these big, because she'll get a date, a girl with big breasts and big ass, and she could look like the bottom of my shoe. She's gonna get a date from me. If she got a body like that, I dated one in college who looked like, she's like a nigga who used to play running back on the football team, but her body was ridiculous. Her face was horrible.
Okay.
But I went out with her.
Right.
I didn't tell nobody. I told them, yeah, I did that, but that wasn't gonna be my girlfriend. I wouldn't want to have my child, a little girl, have to live with that face for the rest of her life. There's a Chinese man who sued a Chinese woman.
Yeah, I heard
You
about
saw that, see?
I heard about it. 'Cause,
You don't want that for your kids, man.
I actually made a tweet that went somewhat viral that said, you know, fellas, the woman you have kids with is going to look, your kids are going to look like her before the plastic surgery.
Yep.
Make sure you
See?
look at the old pictures, and the comments went crazy.
So you have to understand, it is one thing that a man thinks of. It's in our genetics to want to have the best brood, bloodline, whatever you want to call it, that we
Yes.
possibly can. And when you look at someone that's, you know, they're struggling facially, you say, why would I want to condemn my children to that? It's the same thing in the black community. I remember growing up feeling so bad about my skin color that I said I want to marry a white woman because it would be child abuse if I have a child my color and put them through what I went through.
You said that?
Yeah, as a kid, I remember thinking, I will not date somebody. And do you know that most black people feel the same way? We won't date someone our same color. Dark-skinned girls do not want dark-skinned dudes because they don't want to have a dark-skinned child who went through what they went through as children.
There was a phase, and we talked about this earlier, about how at one point, light-skinned dudes were in style. But then, Tyson Beckford,
Michael Jordan.
Tyrese, those guys came in the picture. And in fact, Tyson Beckford, who I've known for a while, became the most famous male model, I think, ever. I cannot think of a male model's name outside of Tyson Beckford. Can you?
No, but I try not to think of male models.
But you've heard of Tyson Beckford.
Right. Because he's a dark-skinned man. I know dark-skinned men because there's a dark-skinned man like Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes.
I know Wesley's name because there's a dark-skinned kid he was like, you can do it, you can make it. They may have thought, because let me tell you what happened when Tyrese. First time he was on a commercial was a Coca-Cola commercial.
Right,
He
I
had on
remember that,
headphones,
yeah.
he was singing. My mother was watching this commercial. Do you know my whole family started laughing at how black and ugly he was? He can tell you of how he used to get treated before he got money. The skin color wasn't a plus. The guys you're naming, guess what they all are? Rich. Once you become rich, you're not ugly anymore. Your dark skin doesn't matter.
Well,
seriously, that's
there
what
are
it
rich,
is.
ugly people out there.
I know, but what I'm saying
Flavor
is
Flav is not considered the epitome of beauty.
right, but you still get women like right now. If you ask black women, say, you don't like dark skinned men. Yes, we do. The first name come out of their mouth will be Morris Chestnut.
Morris Chestnut, right.
But Morris Chestnut is so 80s and 90s. Why are they still using the same name? You don't have to come up with an old school light skinned woman to talk about who's pretty, but they do with us. These men all had what made it change from light skinned guys to dark skinned guys was sports. Michael Jordan even changed the idea of a bald-headed man. Bald-headed man wasn't cute other than Kojak. Michael Jordan was the first one, because he was so popular, now everybody wants that thing. You look at all of these dudes with dreads. Once you get something that's rich, everybody can now look like that.
Bob Marley?
Right? But you look at the Chicago, the Chirac look now.
Yeah.
Well, that look that had gone. We had gotten bald fades and boxes. Nobody walked around like that. But it came in because once you have a guy that's rich doing something, tight pants. Once you got a guy that's rich doing it, we have an easier time than women. That's why I feel bad for women. Because a guy, all we have to do is get money. Right. I look at myself. As a 40-year-old man, do you think I would be able to talk to a 20-year-old woman if I was a guy who worked at McDonald's?
No.
If I was just a regular guy, she'd say, my dad's your age. But because of who I am, they don't find a problem with it now.
Well, money changes the equation, period.
Yes, but women don't have that. That's why I feel bad for people
women
like
have
Serena.
plastic surgery.
Right, but you know what I'm saying? Like Serena. If Serena was a man, she would be able to just walk around in a suit and be astute and whatever and still be considered sexy because he's rich. Because she's a woman, like people say, I will sleep with Oprah. No one says I will marry Oprah without saying I won't have her money. But there are women who are with guys and have.
Oprah's never been known as a very attractive.
That's what I'm saying. Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg has not been known as a extremely attractive woman. But like I said, then there is also the Naomi Campbells of the world. These were also women who did not get to where they were based on their looks. You see what I'm saying? Right. Oprah was not just the hottest girl, and that's why she kept getting them TV shows, and her company came together based on her looks and so forth. It was because of her business sense.
Megyn Kelly.
And her talent of interviewing people and putting together a company. Megyn
Kelly, Erin Andrews.
I don't know who that is.
Megyn Kelly, Fox Hottie. That's what they call her, Fox Hottie.
Megyn Kelly.
Mm-hmm. The young girl, Tommy Loren.
The white girl.
Yeah.
Okay.
They keep calling them hot. Name the black one in television that they call hot. Name one.
Black women on television.
Yep.
Who people consider hot.
That are big time like them.
Big time like that. So you're talking about black female like sports announcers or TV show hosts or so forth?
Erin Andrews is a sports announcer.
Okay.
She's the hottest one now. The hottest black one her name is, God, I can't remember. All they do is make fun of these bad weaves she has. Pam Oliver.
Right. If that's what I'm talking about, who you're talking about, hold on, Pam Oliver.
And Pam be on TV looking bad, dog.
Hold on a second. Let me look at Pam Oliver.
Pam Oliver and Fox.
Right. I mean, she got sort of like...
See how his face? He's like, you're right.
I kind of think that's her own fault because the first time, because I'm not really a sports guy, but the first time that I saw Pam Oliver, I saw this.
See?
But her weave does sort of look Chewbacca-like.
But that's what I mean by that.
This has nothing exactly to do with her looks or her complexion. She just has a crazy-looking weave.
Another thing that black women have to struggle with.
Okay.
I was showing her. We'll walk around, and I said, black women say other races of women wear weaves. I said, but you don't find a white woman who works at Popeye's Chicken with a $300 weave in her head. As a matter of fact, if they do get any kind of thing, it's called an extension, a clip-in. Right. They don't sew their hair up to sew another type of hair that looks completely different than theirs.
I think, unfortunately, natural black hair is not as accepted in American society as it should be. Me personally, I've dated a lot of black women in my day, and I actually kind of dig the whole natural hair thing. And I remember always seeing the surprise when I would say that. Like, yeah, I kind of like just have your hair natural. It looks dope.
I've had girls thought I was playing with her when she took her stuff out, and I was like, you look so much better with your natural. She thought I was joking. They have gotten to the point where they hate themselves and how they look so much that they will do that. Because remember, if black people say it's acceptable, the rest of the world will accept it. It's the same thing happened with big butts, remember? Big butts weren't acceptable. Now they are because, well, black women couldn't hide it. It was theirs and they were proud of it.
Kim Kardashian made big butts acceptable, I think, in
J-Lo.
the white community. J-Lo, yeah.
J-Lo was the first one that they were like,
Right.
yeah. But my point is, like, black women were like, this is how I look. It is what it is. But these same black women will do like how Azalea Banks claim that she loves melanin so much, get her a white man, brag about it, then finally get caught being the woman who's bleaching her skin.
Yeah, I think that Azalea Banks has mental issues.
But they all do. Look at Lil' Kim.
I wouldn't say they all
Not
do.
they all, but I'm saying those people who are doing that, who are lightening their skin, like Sammy Sosa would have a
Sammy Sosa looks crazy.
Right.
Azalea Banks, I have no idea why she would do it. I mean, I guess my thing is that she always seems so pro-black.
Exactly.
And then to turn around, and she talked about the brown paper bag test, which I thought was weird.
Now you understand what I'm talking about when I say
But
about
Azalea
Tariq.
Banks is also, I feel, mentally fucked up. Like, she does shit that normal people don't do.
Well, now you understand what I meant when I was talking about Tariq, though. If he's so pro-black, why would he be the one making fun of his person's skin color? Out of all the things you can make fun of me about, you would bring up my skin color. It comes from the wrong place when the guy who's sticking up for black people are calling black people. It comes from the wrong place when the guy who's sticking up for gay people call gay people. You can't be that kind of a hypocrite.
But what do you think about the N-word in general?
I think as long as we continue to use it, we can't get mad at other people for using it. I don't think it's fair that you would be a promoter of hip hop is what you are, one of the biggest promoters of hip hop.
Right.
But be told that you who is into the industry can't say a word that we flood you with. That as you, and person around my age, you knew when we said it in the 90s, did we mean it as a black person or a guy? Remember in the guy we say, dude, because people probably done call you that a few times, you might. And women will just be, we just call a woman a that did this, and women will call themselves. So we didn't look at it as a racial term in the 90s. It was a male and a female. Now we can't flood your ears, your airwaves with this word and then turn around and tell you you can't use it in the same context in which it's been used. I think if we really have a problem with it, treat it like Jews treat cows. They don't go around calling each other cows. They won't let anyone use it. Why? Because they don't want it used back.
I don't use the N-word at all. If I have to use it, I'll say it just like how I said it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try to change the word if I can, if I'm quoting somebody. Like I think Talib Kweli caught me doing it recently. Where I was quoting one of his tweets and I changed like the N-word to dudes, and he's like, well, that's not what I said, but I get it.
Right.
I think it's just a word that a white person shouldn't use, period. They shouldn't feel any sort of entitlement over using it or not using it. I just keep it out of my vocabulary.
It's the safest thing.
Yeah, I don't sing along with songs or quote lyrics or stuff like that.
Isn't
And
that
I
harmful
think,
though? Be honest, as a person who's in your industry and who's helped the hip hop community as much as you have, to know that people of your skin tone cannot enjoy the song as I would enjoy it for fear of.
I mean, is it really that big of a deal? Like, am I not really enjoying the song because I can't sing along?
You're in the club with it, you can't. You know, that was one of the funniest part about West Coast music was what? Singing along with Snoop. Whenever they played it, you'd sing along, and you can't?
It doesn't bother me. I don't sit up at night lamenting over not being able to say this word. And I think at the end of the day, as a white person in hip hop, I understand that this is a black art form. It was started by black people, and I consider myself very lucky that not being from the same background, I'm able to actually work in this business, contribute to this business, be respected in this business, and I never take that for granted. I feel I am a guest in hip hop, and I feel that as a guest, I've been treated very well by the hip hop community over the years, and I wouldn't put my feet up on the couch and, you know, rearrange the furniture and so forth. I'm very respectful. I never thought I would be at this place. Being such a hip hop fan growing up, I never thought I would be one of the main voices behind it. I never thought I'd be bigger than the Source and Double XL. That was ridiculous in my eyes. So I am very humble and very respectful of that. So if that means that there's certain words I can't use or certain topics I can't speak of, I fully accept that, and it doesn't bother me.
Well, it's understandable, but and I do see it the way that you see it. But I also do not like the idea that black people are telling you, I'm going to surround you with this word and tell you you can't use it.
I'll be honest, I wish the word just didn't really exist in the vocabulary and it was considered a negative word because it's so close to being a negative word depending on how it's said and how and who says it and so forth. It's such a loaded word. It's the most loaded word in the English language to the point where I just wish that it wasn't around, period.
Let me blow your mind a little bit. You know how most black people justify by saying we turned a negative word and turned it into a positive, right?
Yeah.
They say it and they tell you because you said that's my friend. Well, every time you see a drive-by or something, they yell it out too at the people they're shooting. Fuck you. That ain't shit. So when they say it's a term of endearment, that's a lie because it's used the same way negatively towards people they don't like. So you can't say, and I'm with you, it'd be best to just take the word out and treat it like how Jews treat Chinese. You don't see Chinese people going around calling each other
Yeah.
Why would you use it and then expect other people to mute themselves? Eventually someone's gonna slip.
I agree. I think Chinese people calling each other is actually a perfect example. It's not used within the community. I think maybe jokingly it might be used every so often, but
And that would be
I
behind closed
grew
doors.
up around Chinese people. I wouldn't hear any sort of derogatory terms. I think that once, and I can tell you, like, I think a lot of people just don't realize this because most people don't travel, but I've been to like 35 different countries. And I remember when I first went to Africa, it kind of made sense, the whole being in America and how slavery wasn't that long ago, how there still is a tension and there's still after effects of slavery in American society. I didn't quite get it until I went to Africa and I'm like, oh, here's a place that doesn't have that. Because everyone here is comfortable in terms of who they are and, you know, there is no KKK in Africa and stuff like that. Like, for example, one of the things I talked with Akala was why, when you look at Jamaica, there are no derogatory terms. Like the N-word is not used in Jamaica. Mm-hmm. But then you also see that once Jamaica became independent, there was no, you know, they essentially took over the whole country, put their own people in office and so forth. There was no Ku Klux Klan going around hanging Jamaicans and so forth. So there was not that type of thing that went on in Jamaica that went on in America.
But if you talk to blacks around the world too, because I get a lot of them calling in from different countries, telling me of how blacks in America has negatively influenced them to the point of where it has become a word that they use. Even if you can look at like a bunch of Mexican guys, they're not gonna call each other and wigs. They will use the word nigga. It's become so popularized because our music is so popularized that you will hear, we were at the football game. White boys was walking behind us, didn't see us, and was using the word nigga towards each other. I stopped and turned around. I just kept staring at them. And then they see me and they just act like they didn't say it. And I was like, I'm waiting on them to say it one more time. And I kept saying it loud. I'm waiting on you to say it one more time. But in their minds, they weren't doing anything wrong. They were partaking in a culture that they, like you said, respected so much that it became.
Well, here's the thing. If they didn't really think they were doing anything wrong, then they would have used it around you as well.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So clearly, they were just kind of being sort of closet racist among themselves.
No, yes, what I'm saying is
that's really what was happening.
It's like the white girl who wears a afro wig. She may actually like this. We're gonna call her racist if we see her in it. But the black girl who wears blonde wigs all day, it's just her changing her hairstyle. You see it all the time. Culture appropriation. One of the weakest things black people can say, you're appropriating our culture. Well, we appropriate white culture all the time, but it's okay. It doesn't make sense that we spend billions of dollars on weave, But a white woman can't get braids.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, is a black woman with a blonde weave, is that considered negative? Because Tyra Banks kind of had blondish type weaves and.
Yeah, it's not considered negative. That's what I'm saying. We can appropriate everybody else's culture. Think about what Timberland did with the Indian culture. All he did was take their culture. Is that not culture appropriation with his beats?
Right, he got sued for it, but.
Right, but they got their money, but we've never looked at it as we're appropriating these people's culture. Basketball wasn't black, it was just white people playing this. We just got better at it than them. Is that culture appropriation?
Basketball was created by white people.
Right, so whenever they do something, Eminem is culture appropriation. How about it's just he's good at what he's doing? How about he respected the art so much?
I think that Eminem is generally respected by the black community.
No, yes, but the problem is it should never be a question. It should never be a question if we can appropriate other people's culture, because we do it all the time. Yeah. Black people walking around calling each other mommy and papi. You had Little Kim said, I feel like it's Spanish girl inside after she done lighten herself so much and wear weave. She actually went to Instagram and said, I feel like a Spanish, what'd she say? I'm a Spanish girl trapped in a black girl's body. And nobody thought that was wrong. Let a white girl say this. There's a problem. We as black people are more racist than anybody else. It's not real racism, what we do, because we don't have the power. So we're the equivalent of a small person yelling at a taller person. People don't pay us any attention because we don't have power behind it.
Well, I mean, this is why they say that black people can't be racist, because they don't have the power to enact
That's right.
That racism into policy.
Yes, I 100% agree. And when I said white people get mad at me, I said blacks can be bigoted, blacks can be prejudiced, although humans are prejudiced. But we can't be racist because we don't have a system. Matter of fact, nowhere in the world can we implement dominance over another group of people. And that should tell black people something.
South Africa.
Well, the white people gave them the power, and then when they gave them the power, it went to shit. Excuse my French.
I think South Africa, I wouldn't consider the country of South Africa going to shit. I think once Mandela took over, they maintained their significance. The country did not fall apart and go into
It's not what it was, though.
Into civil war and so forth.
That's all I'm saying. It's not what it was. And I look at what happened to Haiti, although economic sanctions and how the white world did that to them, you still got to question, why is it we are where we are as black people? And these are the hard questions no one wants to ask. Why is it that we're looked at and viewed the way that we are everywhere around the world? Everywhere. Everywhere we go, we're viewed the same way. That's kind of not good if you end up being second-class citizens to everyone, everywhere you go. Everyone else has their own home. Everyone else has this place where they can be and feel, like how you said, so separatists. We don't.
Okay, so all the African countries, like Nigeria?
Like you look at the Nigerians, the women are spending money going to these cafes trying to find white men in Europe. Skin bleaching creams are ridiculously, like, they're selling them like hotcakes, and weave. Did you know that the country of Jamaica, that they spend over $1 billion a year on weave? $1 billion. These numbers are ridiculous of people who are spending money to not look black, but claim they love being black. Nobody, if there's one white woman, she spent a bunch of money on getting a tan to the point where she was almost my color.
Okay.
You know what they did to that white woman? Put her in a mental institution.
Okay.
So her trying to get my color was her being crazy. But they don't put black women in the mental institution who end up having their skin bleached to the point where they're white.
I think most people look at someone who changes their skin color tremendously as somewhat crazy. People looked at Vybz Kartel as crazy when he started bleaching his skin.
Yeah, but
People look at Sammy Sosa completely crazy.
So why aren't we institutionalizing them like we institutionalized the white woman?
I don't know about this whole institutionalized thing. I think if a white woman you have tan, was it Tan Mom or something?
That's who they put it. They put her, and she thanked everybody after she got out. I thank everyone for putting me into this.
There's lots of women. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He's orange. Okay. And people still take him somewhat seriously. I mean, he's not in a mental institution.
Well, because of what he has.
He won the presidency of the United States, which I thought was very
Which I found odd with people like Tariq Nasheed, who told people, don't vote. There's no reason to vote. And then when when Donald Trump won, he complained about the election results. That makes sense to whom? I don't understand how I can tell tell a whole group of people, you may have been the cause. If you have millions of followers, you may have been the cause that Hillary lost by telling all these black people not to vote.
Well, I think in general in the election, the one thing that I think is indisputable was that Hillary's supporters were not nearly as passionate as Trump supporters.
Yep.
People said, well, and a lot of people, I think, voted for Hillary as a vote against Trump, which is never really a good idea. You see what I'm saying? And this is something that one of my Washington insider friends broke down to me. He said that Trump has a chance. We're speaking about five or 6 months before the election, because a Trump supporter is going to bring 10 of his friends. A Hillary supporter is going to go by himself or herself. And that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah, I brought that up months ago when they told me I was crazy when I was saying Trump has a chance. They were like, look at the polls, look at the... I said, don't you understand that he's actually pushing a passion and she's not?
Yeah.
And if you're pushing a passion, you can get more people to follow it like a sports team. It's the same thing that happened with Barack Obama. Barack Obama had passion behind him. He had people who wanted to get out and wanted to get friends out. Hillary Clinton just is like even one of the most offensive things to me was when Hillary Clinton came out and she won a nomination. And it was like, women have broken through the glass ceiling, women this, women that, women that. And no one felt like that was odd. Now imagine if Barack Obama, when he won it, had came out and said, blacks have finally done it. White people would have immediately not voted for him because they'd be like, oh no, we can't vote for this guy who's extra black. Matter of fact, he went out his way to make sure he didn't get painted into Mr. Blackness. That's why he separated himself from Reverend Jeremiah Wright. That's why he went out of his way to say, I'm not
Jeremiah Wright, I don't think was the best spokesperson for black people.
No, right, but I'm saying,
hold on. What was Jeremiah Wright saying before?
He said GD America because of what America had done, but he didn't say anything about white people. And then they talked about chickens coming home to roost with 9/11. But he didn't say anything different than what black people were already saying.
Right. I don't think a president wants to stand behind someone who's saying "goddamn America" and chickens coming home to roost.
I understand.
That's just the reality of any president.
But he had to come out and say, I am not the president of Black America, I'm the president of America. Hillary Clinton did not come out one time and say, I'm going to be just as fair to men as I am to women. She was able to be the woman, whatever. And eventually that gets offensive to people. They may not say it in public. It's just like treating white people bad. Black people can do it. But eventually white people are going to start to fight back in their own little ways, especially if they own jobs or they can keep you from something else. And that's what it looked like what a lot of Trump supporters were doing. This was their opportunity. So you remember when the polls were being taken, if you ask a white person in front of other people, who are you going to vote for? They would never say Donald Trump. When the sheet closed behind them and they got in the booth, who'd they vote for?
Well, I mean, Donald Trump did lose the popular vote. Right,
but he shouldn't have gotten anywhere close to. Think about Hillary. She lost places that were typical places that Barack Obama won that he shouldn't have. As a Democrat, he won places he shouldn't have won. Hillary lost those places and Democrat strongholds.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened with Hillary was people didn't really want to vote for Hillary.
Right.
If Joe Biden had run,
he would have won.
I think he would have won.
What does that tell you about the state of America where...
If Barack Obama could run again, if they just said, we'll give you a third term, which has happened in
if you had run against Donald Trump, people were just looking like Hillary was a bad person to people. But I'm going to ask you a question. What does that tell you about the state of America when we'll vote a black guy and an orange guy in before a white woman? Nobody took that into account. I kept saying, I don't think people are ready for a woman president.
I think people weren't ready for Hillary Clinton. I think that if you had a woman president nominee who was as dynamic as an Obama.
But look at how bad of the candidate they voted. I would agree with you if it wasn't for the fact that Donald Trump is such a bad candidate, but he still won.
He still won.
She has political savvy. She's been in politics for so long that you'd eventually say, well, let me just put her in, not this guy. People would rather have that guy than her.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we'll never really have an answer for because we're talking about millions of people voting in their own way. And it's right. It was, I had interviewed Scott Adams, who was the creator of Dilbert, which is a hugely successful comic strip. And he said that he lost something like 40% of his speaking income after he was saying that Donald Trump was going to win. You know, people just stopped booking him.
I got called all kind of stuff when I said he was going to win a long time ago. Herschel Walker, I met him. He talked about how he lost business from people who knew he had been friends with Donald Trump, and they asked him who he'd vote for. As black people, we're pigeonholed, and I don't know if you'll admit to it, but black people, we're pigeonholed. Everybody else can be a bunch of stuff. Black people have to talk a certain way, because if you don't, you're talking white, you're acting white. If you live in a certain place, you live in a white neighborhood. If you vote Republican, you're a sellout. Think about this. Voting for one white person over another white person will make a black person a sellout. You just voted for a white person. You had a white guy and a white woman, but voting for the white guy makes you a sellout. But white people can listen to country, rap, and rock. Black people can't listen to country because you listen to white folks' music. Black people can't do certain things when everybody else has the ability to be several different things at once.
I've heard this before from my black friends. It's like in high school, I remember saying, you know, you could be the white nerd, you could be the white goth kid, you could be the white heavy metal kid, you could be the white country kid, you could be the white computer nerd, whatever. But I could be the athlete or the rapper or the drug dealer or whatever else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's only a couple different categories that I'm stereotypically pushed into, or else I'm considered a bit of a weirdo. And we had some black kids who were kind of doing their own thing. They were considered kind of weird in school. So
they couldn't hang out with other blacks. Remember I asked people, I said, where was the black nerd group? It didn't exist. The black nerd just hung out with the other nerds of other cultures.
Right.
There was no black nerd subculture. There was no black.
If you go to a school that's primarily black, though, you don't think there's a black nerd group in those schools?
Well, the best schools in the country is this one in Chicago. It's a black school. For like 10 years, they've had 0% failure rate of all the seniors, and they've all got accepted to college for 10 straight years, and we don't talk about it. Do you know what they do?
Harlem had a school like that.
Yeah, but do you know what we do talk about, though? That last year or 2 years ago, a bunch of black women were saying it's not fair that there are so many more male teachers than female teachers, and they want to infiltrate that school. Why would you want to mess with something that's perfect?
There is something that I remember I read. It was a documentary that I saw that kind of struck me. And when you look at poor communities, you usually have the worst teachers in those communities. They showed how in the school system, with the way that unions work, you can't really get fired no matter how badly you fuck up. So they just kind of keep putting you in other schools and keep putting you in shittier schools, and then you end up in the shittiest school, right? So you have these schools that are lower income, and you have these shitty teachers in the school, right? The worst of the worst in terms of the teachers. So take a step back, and you see these schools with, let's say, a 50 to 60% graduation rate. Meaning that if you take a school with 400 children, between 100 and 200 children every year ends up just dropping out. So you have these hundreds of people that are being dumped into a community who don't have a diploma from high school, probably can't read very well, don't know math very well, and since they don't have a diploma, it's harder for them to find a job. Not all of them are going into the arts. They're hanging out with nothing to do. They're not going to school. They start to do criminal activities. They start getting into trouble, whatever else. And you keep repeating this year after year, decade after decade. Hundreds of kids being dumped into a community with nothing to do. They're sitting around all day. So is it the community that's creating the bad schools, or is it the bad schools that are creating the bad communities?
I think we don't take it seriously, and let me explain. I grew up in bad schools, but there were always a couple of parents, and it usually was the parents that had a father in there, And there's a documentary that ABC did about this. When the teacher called in for parent-teacher conference because the students were fighting too much, only the father showed up. Because fathers, and you know, even if you're not a father, you know that as a man, you become a father, you take your children seriously. Think about how many immigrant workers are these dudes who the guy can't speak English, but he just works with his hands until he dies, but he makes sure his son can speak perfect English and has an opportunity to go to school.
Right.
Fathers care about their legacy. It reflects bad on us. If I'm a man and I have good kids, more women want to have kids with me because of how I raise those kids. Okay. Women don't look at their children that way. Women kind of look at their children as burdens. They don't see them the same way as guys do. They're in competition with their daughters. You ever notice how most of these women are trying to go to the club with their daughters? I have a theory when I say that if a woman has a kid at 16, she's mentally stumped at 16. So she continues to act year after year like she's
like a 16-year-old.
Yeah,
I can see that.
And ever watch when their child gets 16, they're best buddies, even though they're 32.
Right.
Because their mind is still stuck that way.
I think having a child before you're financially ready to have that child is a recipe for disaster. No matter if you're 16 or if you're 46, if you're bringing a child into a situation where you can't afford to have that child and have that child be in a good environment, you are automatically putting everyone in a bad situation.
Yet they're doing it.
Because children are very expensive, extremely expensive, both from a money and a time perspective. And at 16, you don't have any money.
Look on your Instagram, Vlad. Look at how many women you see that are in the strip club. They did a statistic and it showed how many black versus the white porn stars who have children. The black porn stars who had children were in the 60s. The white ones were in the teens.
Okay.
So why were the black women still strippers? Almost every black stripper you know has a kid. Now, I ain't gonna let you to put your business out there, but I guarantee you, almost every black stripper you know, she got kids. So she's able to go around and do these jobs, which typically, if it's anything to do with me, I look at a stripper and I'll just ask her, how much you make tonight? I'll just give you the money and let you do what I need to do with you instead of throw money at you, because that's just how I am. And 9 times out of 10, they accept that money. So these women are doing this, and in the process after they do it, they go get tattoos, butt surgery, breast surgery, and weave. But their kid does not go to a private school. Strange. Because these women don't do that. Now guys, if a guy had to do some foul stuff to take care of his kid, that money would go to his kid, because he'd feel like, I'm doing this foul stuff for this kid.
Well, you have a system in America where custody goes to the woman 90% of the time, which I think is a problem. Yep. But it's almost impossible for a man to have custody of his children unless the woman is clearly a drug addict or self-destructive, or you have to have a very extreme situation with a woman. The woman could be fucked up and still have the children. She could be a stripper, she could be a porn star, she could be, have a shitty job, not a lot of skills. The court system will still give the children to the woman.
Think about how messed up this is, Vlad. Say you just sleep with a crackhead, I know you wouldn't. Let's just say you just messed up and did. Got the crackhead pregnant.
Right.
You are financially able to take care of your kid and give it a great life.
Yeah.
They would rather give that kid to the crackhead and make you finance the crackhead's life than let you have the kid. 9 times out of 10, most of these rappers who knock women up, they'd rather take the kid than pay $7,000 a month. But the courts would rather give them, like Chris Brown's baby mama, who had already lost one kid because she was a poor parent. She'd already lost a kid before the one she had with him. Yes, she has a kid before him that the father was able to get custody because she was a poor parent.
Oh, lost in terms of custody. Okay, I thought you meant died.
Oh, no. So she had lost a kid that way, and yet she still was able to have a kid, and they don't look at it and say, well, if money is so important, give the kid to the one with the money. And we as men are the ones who are in Congress.
Well, to be fair, in the Chris Brown situation, I don't think anyone looked at Chris Brown and said, he just had a baby, he's gonna stop his music career and focus on this child's life and raising this child and is going to be a great parent, and he's such an upstanding citizen, and he has no gang relations, and he doesn't claim blood pyro and does a bunch of dumb shit and shootings happen at his shows and all that type of stuff. None of that happens. This is a great guy. We're going to give the kids to him. Chris Brown had his own set of issues.
But there are guys who are great guys and they never give them to him. Look at Bosh. Chris Bosh he didn't get in any trouble. Okay. Immediately when he got this girl pregnant, they should have said, well, let's just give it to Chris Bosh. Why give Chris Bosh's baby mama $20,000 a month? Why do this?
The legal system is focused on women raising the kids.
And yet the numbers bear out that single fathers, even though the number's smaller, raise more productive citizens than single moms do.
I agree.
By a long shot.
I'd have to see it.
I want you to go look it up and then come back and y'all want you to make a video and tell him, say he's right.
But I could sort of see where you're going with this in terms of what it is. But there's also, I don't want to put it out there that every single mother does a horrible job.
No, we don't speak in absolutes.
Right, because like I said, Barack Obama, raised by a single mother, came out well-adjusted, became president.
I was raised by a single mother. I don't discount all single, it's not an all thing. Okay. But every girl you sleep with without a condom is not gonna get pregnant or give you AIDS or an STD. Right. Do we argue standpoints like that, or do we argue what's best for the individual, saying it's probably safer to do it this way? What we're saying is it's safer for people to have a mother and a father, some type of stability, like you said, financial situations. We can name plenty of people who came from poor backgrounds, but what did you just say? It's better to have the finances.
Okay, so your situation, you have a daughter?
I have 2 now.
2 daughters?
Yep.
Are you married to the mothers of?
Nope.
Of these 2 girls?
Nope. And all the time I talk about how it's not right what me and her mothers did to her. My daughter, she's well-rounded, grounded, but she lives on another coast.
This is the same mother for both your daughters?
Nope.
Okay, so two different mothers. Mm-hmm. Okay.
See, so I'm talking about myself when I talk about these stats.
So you have a situation where you may be financially helping out with your daughters, but because you do not live with their mothers, you are not in the same home, you are not able to provide the same level of parenting.
That's right.
That a husband could provide.
Or if I lived in the same city. I live in Phoenix.
Okay.
My 10-year-old lives in Atlanta.
Right.
Every time she wants to see me, it's a 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
My other one lives in LA. Every time she wants to see me, it's either a 1-hour flight or a 4-hour drive.
Okay.
They can't see me when they're in school because they are in school.
Right.
They can't just come for the weekend because they spend most of it in flight.
Yeah. So
they have to see me on breaks. My daughter either is with me for summer break, and if she wakes up in the middle of the night and wants her mom, she can't have her. Or when she's with her mom and she wakes up in the middle of the night and wants her dad, she can't have him.
Right.
I don't think that's cool at all.
Right.
And I partook in that situation twice. Now my 8-year-old, I just found out about my 8-year-old in April. The mother of the 8-year-old had blamed the 8-year-old on another guy for all of that time and then found out, well, wait a minute, I think this guy has money.
So you had a daughter that you didn't even know you had?
Just found out in April of this year.
And she was 8 years old?
Yep.
So you missed 8 years.
Oh, and let me tell you exactly how great women are. After finally getting her monthly checks and stuff, I have missed 8 years of this kid's Thanksgiving. So I said, well, her sister's coming from Atlanta. Might as well let her come on Thanksgiving. She said, no, I got plans.
Did you have to pay back child support?
Okay, here's how that worked. I didn't have to because the judge was like, no. But I offered a year of back child support. I was like, well, I'm paying a year. Because the judge said we didn't have to because you didn't let him know.
Okay.
So I thought that was cool because my lawyer was afraid. Arizona's different though, guys. Arizona's different. Some states, you have to pay. There's a guy that's in my movie right now called Carnell Williams. He's been paying child support and he's been to jail 10 times now on a child that isn't his. But because he signed the paper, even though the DNA says he's not, he finally had that case overturned 3 weeks ago after 26 years and all of those jail. And he said he wants to sue for some of the money that he paid back, but his lawyer told him he's probably not gonna get a dime.
Right.
But here's what happened. I told her I'd pay a year back child support to her because I just thought, I mean, everything's seen, I'm stupid. So after doing it, I didn't know what happened. So I went to go get my passport renewed. It said I owed a year, like literally the next week. And then my credit dropped 130 points because I had a year back. and so I called her and I said, you know, I'll give you the money. You need to take this off my thing. No, I'm trying to get my passport. Her words to me were, well, if I drop it, I'm just scared you won't pay me. I said, pay you money that you don't deserve. Since she's been getting child support, she got a new house and a new car.
Okay.
But I couldn't see my kid on Thanksgiving after she's had 8 straight Thanksgivings. I couldn't see it.
So who was the guy who thought was the father?
That's what I'm saying. He doesn't get the kid is named after that guy.
Well, because technically, yes, that's technically biologically your child, but this has been the father in this.
He's out of the kid's
girl's
life now.
Really?
Yep. That's how dirty these women can do.
So he found out. Well, is that on him or on her?
Well, there's a woman who listens to my show. She was a big fan of my show, didn't believe in having kids out of wedlock. Apparently she slept with a guy one day, got a kid out of wedlock. Another dude loved her so much because the dude ran off. That's the way she tells it. He was just a fly-by-night sleep with guy. A dude loved her so much that he married her when she was 6 months pregnant.
Okay.
She divorced him after the kid was 2 years old. She called me saying, I need your advice. I said, what's up? She said, this nigga is trying to still be under my kid when it ain't his kid. I said, but he's been there since the kid was born. Yeah, but it ain't his. When I don't want to be with him no more, he shouldn't be in the kid's life. I said, that is so dirty.
Well, so your daughter's stepfather, I guess, at this point?
It's another guy. She's with another dude now, had a baby with that other dude. That's
okay, no. But the man who thought was the father of your daughter, if he wanted to still be in this girl's life, number one, would you be okay with that?
Yeah.
He's been there for 8 years, right?
Exactly.
Changed her diapers.
I'm a big believer in stepdads and dads, just like stepmoms and moms should get along because it really does take a village to raise a kid.
Okay, so do you know the situation? Did he walk away from the situation?
I know nothing. Only thing I kind of know is that at a certain point in time, I think the kid really didn't look like his and maybe they started having fights. So he asked, because when I got the paper of her getting tested for who's the kid's father, apparently 4 of the dudes had been tested too.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't
I
be laughing.
only knew her one day. And I remember telling my lawyer, it can't be my kid. I remember I wore a condom and blah, blah, blah. I couldn't remember her, but I was like, I stay strapped up, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, and then she came into court and said, well, yeah, he wore a condom. So she was very honest. It was weird. So she was very honest about what happened, very honest, told the judge, well, I mean, I can't blame him. He hasn't been there because he didn't know. So it was amicable in that sort of a situation. So that's why I offered the year back. I was like, she's really nice. The whole time, all she did was try to convince me, you don't remember? I used to look like this. She was bringing pictures of what she used to look like. So it became more about her than the kid.
Well, 8 years ago. I mean, I've gotten emails from girls claiming to be my ex, and I'm looking at this picture going, I have no idea who
Right.
you are.
I think women don't understand us. Like that's a random thing there. I don't remember you like that.
No, I've had women send me emails breaking down the date and what I did, and I'm like, I'm not even being funny right now. I have no idea. I think it leaves our minds so quickly that it's just, we block it out.
But yeah, I would have no problem with him being in a kid's life. But when you would do something like that, and then my daughter, when I met her, she told me a story, and I hated that story. She said, well, my mom said that the reason she had me is because she was told she couldn't have any kids. So when she found out she was pregnant with me, that's why she had me. And then this was an 8-year-old telling me this story. So mom told the 8-year-old this.
Right.
Then mom tells the 8-year-old again that the reason she's having the current baby that she just had was for the same reason. So that every time she gets pregnant now, she's gonna say she's having a kid because she thought she couldn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I see where you're going with this. Well, you've blamed single black mothers for gay black men?
Now, that was a misquote by the Huffington Post, but I'll explain it. What I say is this: you have men like me. I'm a grown man. I'm a man, whatever. But I remember one day I was standing in line and I had my hands on my hips like this, both hands. And I caught myself. I said, why am I standing like this? Well, how did I see people stand when I was a kid? Women who stood or walked or acted a certain way.
Okay.
A lot of these men are finding themselves very effeminate because they've been raised by nothing but women. Why do you think, even though in these, like you talked about money, well, I can tell you when blacks have a lot of money in these Source Awards and things like that, they still were fighting when they weren't fighting at the Country Music Awards when they came from poor backgrounds, same way. Why not? Because emotionally, we can't take someone saying something about us without feeling we have to fight them. Go look up fights in these inner city schools. Guess who's actually fighting more than the black boys? Black girls.
Well, I could tell you I had a rap battle, and in the battle was a bunch of street dudes, bunch of jail dudes. You know, it was like the rap battle scene is very, very grimy. You know, people get in each other's faces, a lot of gun references and so forth. And I had my little crew there, you know, doing security. And the only fights that broke out were from two female rappers. When I go to these things called Queen of the Ring, which is like a female battle rap league, which I've been, you know, I know the owners, so I've been, you know, to a few of them, and we've interviewed some of the people. The amount of fights that break out with these lesbian girls is on another level.
As a matter of fact,
these girls really beat the shit out of each other, more so than the men.
How many of those, because they send them to me all the time, and I know you and I do sort of the same thing, how many times have you gotten people send you the Instagram videos or Twitter videos of the strippers pounding each other at the strip club?
Yeah, I've seen a few.
So if you think about it, these women are raising these violent people, and they're also raising these effeminate dudes because they're only seeing one background. As women, I have a theory. Women have the ability to do something that men can't. A woman can walk up to your face and say anything, and you can't hit her back.
Right.
But if I walk up to your face and say anything, there are repercussions. A woman can walk up to your face and throw water in your face, slap you. You as a man should control yourself.
Right. I got slapped by a woman once at a bar for no reason, and I had to walk away. Because it was a very high-end rooftop type hotel bar, and I mean I kind of felt like a punk doing it, but in the moment I just felt like I couldn't really do anything. It was a little Asian girl too, and I could have thrown her over the bar or whatever, but I'm like, I got to take this L right now, and it bothers me to this day.
See, as men, we have to do this. Now imagine if you raise little boys who watch their mothers act out in public. The little boy thinks that he can do it, and he gets a different result. Think about how many black women have argued, yelled, and spit at cops and never were shot. Think about how many black boys were shot for the same exact behavior.
But where does that translate into them being gay?
Oh, well, the whole thing is, I don't think that they're gay because of single black mothers. I think that they're effeminate because of single black mothers. I think they relate to feminine stuff. I grew up watching my mom getting her hair done for 8 hours every Saturday. And guess where I was? Right there with her, watching all those women gossip. Grew up, became a teenager with other boys who grew up doing that. Guess what you see a lot of black men doing? Gossiping. You see black men acting like women, trying to expose women they slept with and putting out pictures that they showed of them. That's not something a dude does. We kind of want to keep who we slept with in the closet so we can sleep with new people.
Right.
No, but not these dudes. These dudes are on, look at this stuff that 50 Cent doing. And me and 50, all right, we cool, but we had our little arguments and stuff about the thoughts about black women. Then he turned around and started saying the same kind of crap. Young Thug. Was that a masculine thing he did to those, the women at the airport? Everything about that was ridiculous.
Well, I mean, Young Thug wears dresses,
Ah.
so it is what it is.
He called those women peasants, yet his mama grew up on Section 8. Said that he was raised on Section 8. So how can you call those people peasants? That make your mom peasant, doesn't it?
Well, he also said they look like Africans or something like that.
Right. That's, see where I'm going with this? You want to insult a black woman?
He himself actually looks African.
You want to insult an American black woman? Do me a favor. You see all we talk about in the black community is how we from Africa, we from kings and queens. You want to insult a black woman? Walk up to her and tell her, ma'am, are you African? You look African. She will get pissed. How does that make sense? You walk up to a Jew and say, are you Israeli? Do you think they're going to get pissed? No. Blacks do not like being referenced to Africa or anything of dark skin. Look at all the black models that you talked about and look at their background, what they say they are. They will always say, I'm French, I'm so-and-so. They will say they're mixed. The darker they are, the more stuff they say they're mixed with.
Well, Naomi Campbell is English, I believe, with African roots. Iman, I believe, is British or
I think she's
Ethiopian.
Yeah, I think she's Ethiopian.
Ethiopian.
All them
Okay.
girls fine.
And Ethiopia is part of Africa, isn't it?
Yes.
Or is that the Middle East?
No, it's Africa.
Africa.
But they would consider themselves just like Egypt. They consider themselves Middle East. Have you noticed that black people only reference Egypt when they talk about Africa? They don't talk about the Sudan or any place where the people of my color. They only talk about the people when they
You're talking about Nigeria.
Rarely do you see those Hotep blacks bring up Nigeria. They always bring up Egypt, the pyramids. The Egyptians don't even consider themselves black. They don't. So why do blacks reference people who don't consider themselves
The Egyptians were something to celebrate.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but why
The Egyptian Empire was extremely impressive. I could see why someone would want to take credit for that, being somehow connected to that, because at the time, there was no such thing as pyramids and,
I agree, but why are blacks only referencing these places where there aren't blacks and the people aren't saying that they are black? Africans don't even like African Americans like blacks are going around. Even the idea of saying African American. Every other person who comes here after a few generations, they're just Americans. Blacks have never went to Africa and have no intention of going back, but still want to refer to themselves as African American, when I think they should take pride in being American, because it's the only culture they know. And then you look at what the Democrats are doing.
Well, it's the only culture they know, but they didn't come over here willingly.
Right.
So there's sort of a different, when you look at other racial groups, like, for example, I'm Russian. My family came over, like I was born in Russia and came over here willingly. I know what city I was born in. I know family members that are in those cities. I have a connection to my motherland, or whatever you want to call it. A black person in America has no real idea where they came from.
Very true.
And that's problematic in and of itself. All those records were stripped clean.
But we don't want to know either. Most blacks who say...
wanting to know, I guess you could take a DNA test and sort of figure out what area you were from, but it's not really the same as saying, hey, I got an uncle, a grandfather over there. I got family members over there. For example, I saw this thing on Revolt where Wale went back to Nigeria and met with his grandfather and stuff like that. And Wale really pushes the whole African thing. Well, his family, I think, is first generation and so forth. But he actually has a real connection. He went over there and met up with his family members. You can't go to Africa and meet up with family members with any sort of real assurity that these are your actual family members, as opposed to someone just trying to scam you.
That's very true, and that's why I said we should take pride in what we know. We know American. We know Daddy was from Cleveland. We know, it is what it is. You have to build something from somewhere, right? The Israeli Jews weren't always there. What was it, before 46?
Yeah.
They're proud of their homeland now. They tie themselves to there now. We have been here for years, and we've allowed the Democrats to tell us things like, well, you can't speak regular English, you need Ebonics. That was if you want to talk about racism is telling me that I can't learn English in one generation, when there are people, in hundreds of years, when people come here from other cultures and learn perfect English in one generation. That's not cool. But the Democrats tell blacks, well, if you do speak perfect English, you're just trying to be white. So keep on doing what you're doing and we'll just help you. You need affirmative action. Affirmative action is a form of racism. You're telling me that you want everybody to have a 90% trying to be a fireman. They must have a 90% to pass this. But if you're a black guy, we'll let you pass with a 70. Do you know they claim that the SAT is culturally biased? How does that make sense when blacks only know one culture? This one.
Well, I remember going to Berkeley during the whole affirmative action fight that was happening during the time. And Berkeley is somewhat of a mixed area. I remember Jesse Jackson even showed up and spoke. I've always been for affirmative action. And I think that, yes, you're going to lower the bar a little bit to allow certain people through the door, which is making up for all the people that are being systematically blocked from that door before they, without even knowing that they're being blocked. And this is what I referenced before, by creating role models for certain types of people, you are going to influence a lot more people.
I agree.
Like, I can tell you, I started off my career as a DJ before, hence the DJ Vlad name. When I first moved to New York in 2002, I took a step back and I saw what was happening in the DJ community, and I said, okay, well, here's these guys who are hot club DJs and this guy who's, a great scratch DJ and so forth. But here's Funkmaster Flex that actually turned DJing into an actual business more so than just the DJing. He actually has this whole car thing going up. He's got his own shoe with Skechers and so forth. He's actually a business person with a DJ moniker. That's what I wanted to do. And when you look at where I am today, he has a website as well, which he, it's kind of funny how it happened, but I really modeled an overall business over a Funkmaster Flex as opposed to, let's say, a DJ Kid Capri, who is still around and still doing his thing DJ-wise, but he's still going out there and he's not quite as successful as a Flex who built more of a business. So very rarely are people just going to come up with completely new, ideas and role models and so forth. They look at something else and say, hey, I could do something kind of like that. Affirmative action allows more of that to happen.
I can agree with you, but like you, my ex was born in Moscow.
Okay.
She was 12 when she came to the States. Her mother knew no English at all, and she neither did she. By the time I met her, she was 34. She had a master's. She had started several of her own businesses. Now she's a chef.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and she had a problem with the idea. She said, we had nothing. She remembered being back in Russia. She said they would have rations on cheese and bread and stuff like that. And she said, it's so funny. She wasn't given anything here, but an opportunity. And the opportunity meant so much to her, and said it hurt her to watch so many people who have more of an opportunity not take the opportunity. And just to see so much of that, I've noticed even African blacks feel that way about American blacks. They come over and they're like, you have so much opportunity. You're wasting it. Blacks get free education no matter how poor it is because they could raise the bar of that education if they'd like. If those parents went to that school en masse and said, we demand better teachers, but the parents aren't even going to the school. A lot of the parents, they don't have jobs because they're on Section 8 and things like that, so they don't have to have real jobs, and they still won't do something as simple as walk their kids to school. They'll stick their kids on a bus.
I mean, the opportunity thing is 100% real because I came from that environment. I sometimes think about where I would be financially if I was still in Russia. Like, it's incomprehensible. And in fact, I even went back maybe about a year and a half ago and got to really, went to Moscow and St. Petersburg and so forth. Yeah, opportunities is a huge thing. And when you come from a place that you don't have it and suddenly you're put in a place where you have it, it's going to motivate you a lot more. So that's why you see first generation families doing so well, and then you see second generations fucking it up. This is
that is true too.
But you see this even if you take a step back. How often do you see the children of a successful man being remotely as successful as them? Like, at one point I was talking to Tom Hanks' son, who was a complete fuck.
Colin.
Not Colin, Chet.
Oh.
Yeah, Chet Hanks, who ended up in rehab. He was the only person, he was so fucked up that we had scheduled a whole interview right here with him, and he was the only person out of the hundreds of people that I've interviewed for almost 10 years who 30 minutes before the interview said, I can't make it. With no reason behind why he can't make it, no interest in rescheduling. He just said, nah, sorry, I can't make it. And that was just how it is, because he's Tom Hanks' son, and that's just, he's functioning from a different viewpoint than anyone else I've dealt with. You see fuck-ups of rich parents all the time.
Mm-hmm. Menendez boys.
Yeah, all the time. I mean, look at I'm not saying that Trump's kids are fuck-ups, but what have they accomplished compared to what he's accomplished? It's not even close.
Well, because they don't have the drive, so I agree with you. The ones that come after but that's what's scary to me. Oh, sorry. But that's what's scary to me about us as black people. If we didn't come from the people who succeeded, then why are we so comfortable with where we are? And that's what scares me about the rappers. The rappers are getting out of the hood, but what are they rapping about? Staying in it. They're telling the people you're not real even if they don't come from it.
Depends who it is. Jay-Z's not rapping about being in the hood.
Right? But
At all.
But he said, what is it? I don't rap about being in the project hallways. I can't remember the line. But he still talks about how he has the credit to be able to go inside of these hoods and whatever. And there's nothing wrong with saying this.
Well, I think if Jay-Z showed up in any of these hoods, he would be worshipped like a god.
Right, but it's this idea of we're telling our people, like with the music right now, I was listening to this one song, and I'm old, so I don't know. He was in love with the Coco and all these songs.
Right,
where they
OT Genesis.
Right, well, all these songs they're singing about selling dope even if they didn't sell it or they don't sell it anymore. And you know that if you tell somebody how great it is and that you got to where you are by doing this, you're almost condemning them to death.
I know the story. I mean, I've actually interviewed OT right when the song started to hit, and he did come from that background. Probably, he didn't seem like he was in it at the time he made the song. He made the song hit, and now he does a bunch of drug songs just because. I don't think it's some hidden agenda that he has. I think that he did something that worked really well, and in music, you end up having to try to repeat that formula over and over again.
But remember when we started, 70s, 80s, 90s, each era created a different brand of music. But something happened to rap. Rap became about money and drugs, and it stayed that way for the last 25 to 30 years.
Right, because I remember in the early 90s, late 80s, it was considered kind of whack to rap about gold chains and cars. It was really Afrocentric. Yep. It was, all the black kids in my school had the leather African medallions. That was considered cool. At the time, the biggest group at the time, and actually I just interviewed Professor Griff last week, we were talking about this, how the biggest group in the time was Public Enemy, and Public Enemy was not about material shit. It was about pro-black, it was about social change, no glorification of negative stereotypes and so forth, to the point where Chuck D would sue anybody who even, I think like some liquor company used his voice in some ad, he sued them. Biggie ended up using his voice in the 10 Crack Commandments. He sued Biggie after he died. Like, that's how serious it was. And there was a lot of other groups, Poor Righteous Teachers, Paris. It was a bunch. That was considered the hot shit at the time. And since that time, you've had glimmers of that. You have J. Cole, you have Kendrick, but it's not, overall, it's not considered.
Remember, we had more diversity in rap. Think about it.
Yeah.
You did have your Lukes. You had people who rapped about certain things. You had your gangster rap, but you still had the guys who was the name of the group? The guys who sung Tennessee and
Arrested Development.
Arrested Development. You had a diversity in rap, so it was fun.
Although gangster rap was kind of running that shit during the time. But when NWA came out, it was sort of.
That's what I mean. That right in that era, shit hit the fan.
Right.
And it hasn't changed.
It
hasn't been through a cycle. It
continues.
Else. And it became more about bling, bling, money, bitches, drugs. Money, bitches, drugs. Yeah. Money, bitches, drugs. And that's the formula even to 2016 to 2017? Same formula?
Although J. Cole just dropped an album recently and it went to #1 right off the bat. Actually, all his albums have gone to #1.
Yeah.
And he is anti all that shit.
Well,
I mean, he addresses it, but I don't know if you listen to him or not. But he addresses it.
I haven't heard much about him, but I did see a special he had on. So I know he's big because he had his own HBO special.
Yeah.
And it talked about how he grew up and where he grew up at and the things he tries to do for his community. But it's like those guys are, like you said, glimmers sprinkled here and there. When you see what happened to Kanye from when he came out to who he is now. He was the same guy who said, dude, get money, get him a white girl. He got money.
Got a white girl. I can't tell you though, I interviewed Kanye in like 2004 or 5. This was before Through the Wire was out, but it hadn't really hit yet. And the Kanye you see today is the exact same Kanye from 12, 13 years ago.
Really?
Oh, 100%. 100%. He would say the thing with Kanye is really, it's not so much that he doesn't like other people, is he likes himself so much he doesn't understand why you don't see it. Like the type of shit that he would say on and off camera was absolutely mind-blowing. You know, like he just felt like he was the shit and everyone should know it, and he'll, so
he's always had this belief in himself before
he
100%.
100%. What you just see more of him. You know, if there was a camera running with Kanye the entire time, it would be the exact same Kanye that you see. And everyone I've talked to has told me the exact same thing that actually knows him.
Because the song I liked about his that made me become a fan of his was "Cheers to the Rock." When he explains his rise at the end of, I think, the last song, that's a beautiful song because it explains how he was so happy to meet. He got kicked out of his apartment. His mom had to get him another one. He had dropped. He said he had played plenty of people Jesus Walks. Nobody would listen to him. People just wanted him to make beats. They never took him seriously as a rapper. He got dropped by one label right when he got ready to sign, and that's how he ended up on Rockefeller. He tells the story. And I thought it was so humble of him because he talked about when he met Dame Dash, he said, I was in awe. And then to hear him talk now, like, no, you should be in awe of me. He, to me, seemed like he became a different person because he appeared on that song very humble at where he was.
It was a long time ago.
Right.
It's many hit songs and millions of dollars
and beautiful women and people
and
telling
all that,
you
all thrown together. Yeah, you're gonna end up being a much different person. I'm a much different person than I was 10 years ago.
Why is growth not acceptable, especially amongst us though, as black people? Like people say you've changed. Why shouldn't a 30-year-old change when he's 50?
Right. Well, I think most people get stuck on a certain thing and want to keep people into that same thing. You know, like for example, I could say, why are the Rolling Stones not what they used to be? You know, because the Rolling Stones just had a new album out, and I listened to it, and I'm like, this is not like the old shit. It's hard to recapture some of that thing. I don't know if that's clearly just a black thing. I think it's just a human thing. And I think that, when I hear a lot of stuff that you say, you present it in a black format, but it really applies
to everyone else.
To pretty much everyone. That's
why a lot of people, when I talk about fathers, I spoke about black fathers. The movement got so big because white fathers kept saying, I relate. But the sad part was white fathers seem to give more of a damn than the black fathers because, like, let me explain. If you've noticed, every time you see an Amber Alert, it's always some other culture of man that picked his kid up because he couldn't see his kid and he ran off with it. Name the last Amber Alert have you ever seen of a black person saying, I can't see my kid, so I'm gonna go just get my kid from school and run off with him because you're not letting me see my kid. We have accepted that a father's not supposed to be there, and let me tell you why. Because if my father wasn't there, it's not that big of a deal to me. I remember even saying on my show, I said, if my daughter's mom make it difficult for me to see the little girl, I'll be okay without seeing her. They were like, why could you say that? I was like, I guess in a way I look at it as saying, well, my father wasn't there and I turned out okay. So many of us say this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you repeat the things that your parents do subconsciously. I know I've done a bunch of the same shit my father has done when I swore I would never be like my dad and all that type of shit. And I look at certain big things in my life and I'm like, oh, my dad did this at this age? I did the same shit right around the same age. Yep. Like, how interesting. How did that happen?
That's why I stopped hating my dad. Because I started to look at my life and I said, for as bad as a person he was supposedly, that I said, I'll never be this guy. I'm 34, 35, and I'm exactly that guy.
Yep.
So that's why I said, you know what, maybe I should embrace who this guy is and change who he is. So maybe since he didn't get a chance to do better, maybe I could.
There you go. That's how we're going to end it.
All right.
Tommy Sotomayor, appreciate you coming through.
Thanks, Vlad.
Cool.